All right, let me have my questions ready to go. I have some cat allergies, unfortunately.
Oh,
I have a cat. I grew up with my grandmother, and she has started to get dementia about 2 years ago. So we had two childhood cats. One of them died. One of them is still alive. And when she got dementia, she couldn't take care of her anymore. So I had two options. I either take her or she goes to a shelter and they put her down. So I took the old lady, and so I suffer.
yeah, you're
Unfortunately,
suffering through it. Well, it's okay.
it is what it is, man. It's
You're
all
a
good.
good boy.
We do what we got to do, man. You know. Okay. Hold on, something just popped up. Welcome to another episode of Soothing Semantics. I'm your host, Rafi Pinsky. Make sure to subscribe, like, share, leave your comments, good or bad. We welcome them all. And today, ladies and gents, we have a guest that I've been following up with for about 11 months now. A man I've followed for quite a while now. I have gotten enormous amount of insight from Rollo Tomassi. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm
sorry
we have to do this remote. I would like to be there, but this has been kind of it's only like the first week of February, and I'm like running around like playing whack-a-mole with all this shit.
So let me give a little introduction for whoever doesn't know. I'm sure a lot of my buddies in my inner circle do know who you are, are big fans of yours. Rollo Tomassi has been in the space, the dating space, or what we coin as the red pill space, for 20 plus years now. Okay.
Technically 21.
21. Okay.
Now it's 21.
Okay. So ex rock, well, not ex rock star, still a rock star, still a pimp, still doing his thing.
Bush League rock star.
So he has 5 best-selling books called the Rational Male. They're a series of books. I implore all of you to read them, whether you are male, female, pigeon, or cheetah. Definitely check them out. And you have your own channel called the Rational Male on YouTube, and you also do a podcast with Michael Sartain, who I had on my podcast, called Access Vegas. They have beautiful women on. They talk about male and female dynamics, the red pill, feminism, the whole 9 yards. So there's more to discuss. I can introduce you for another 5 minutes, but again, thank you for coming. And
Thanks.
The first thing I want to go into is the red pill being a science based on facts and data, as opposed to being something subjective. So you were on Dr. Phil recently. I love the episode. And Dr. Phil was kind of challenging you.
People say recently, they don't understand that show was shot November 15th. They think I just did it live just like 2 weeks ago. Like, no, that's been in the can for like almost 2.5 months, man.
Really? That's how it is?
Yeah. But they shoot in advance. They have to shoot in advance.
Okay, I got you. Hold on 1 second.
No, it's okay.
No, my buddy's just eating something. So
I'm gonna bring you some coffee.
Huh? No, actually, I got some right here. Okay, so you went on Dr. Phil, absolutely kicked ass. I love how prepared you are. I mean, there's no one better to do this than you. And they were trying to make it, or Dr. Phil was trying to make it as if what you're saying is some sort of opinion, and there are aspects of the discussion where there may be some opinions involved. For the most part, you're a very data-oriented, fact-driven person. And so kind of go into that a bit, because it seems to be that people don't seem to grasp that.
Okay. One of my, I guess, pet peeves, or one of the things that really kind of works me up is that people fundamentally don't know what the red pill is, because they've just come into like this realization of the intersexual dynamics, the manosphere, whatever cutesy name we're giving it right now. And they don't understand like the principles and how do we come to like the opinions? How do we come to the data that we do? And right around, I think 2013, 2014, one of my followers on my blog mentioned that the red pill is really a praxeology. It is not a set of beliefs. It's not a philosophy. It is not an ideology. It is not a religion. It is not belief driven. It is factual driven. It is empirical. It is objective. Ideally, it is objective. And it is science. It's a loose science, let's just say. And it's not good and it's not bad. It just is what it is. It's just data. How you interpret that data, that's when you get into prescriptions, and that's when you get into ideologies, and that's when you get into politics, and that's when you get into religion, and that's when you make it into a belief set. How do you interpret this data? And that's been sort of a constant struggle, I think, as far as the manosphere is concerned, because people want to take this data and then they want to turn it into a commodity. They want to turn it into a brand. They want to turn it into some. So, you have got all these factionalizations in what we call the we weren't even calling it the manosphere when I got into all this. So what I look at it, when people ask me, Rollo, what's the red pill? Give me the elevator pitch. Tell me what the red pill is in 1 minute. Go. It's like, this is like fucking Shark Tank or something like that. And it's like, no, that's not what it's a college class. It's not a sound bite. So, because there's so many aspects to intersexual dynamics, there's the evolutionary psychology side for sure. But that's one aspect. And I think a lot of people kind of like fixate on the evolutionary psychology side of things right now, which they should, because that's the fundamental basis of the red pill, as far as understanding women's nature and men's nature and the confluence between the two of them. Definitely evolutionary psychology is the linchpin and the basis of it. However, you have to also remember that back in the day, back in, like, say, the pickup artist days, the red pill was about getting your dick wet. That's what it was about. It was about, how do I do what I need to do to get laid? That's what it was. From 2000 until about 2007 or 2008, somewhere in there, the seduction communities of the early forum days, remember, there's no social media. There's no YouTube. There's no, I mean, you could make a DVD maybe, but there's no classes. There's no teachable. It hasn't been like industrialized to the point it is right now. It was just a bunch of guys on forums who got together, shared notes, and said, this is what's going on in my country. This is what's going on in the clubs. This is what's going on with the girls I'm dealing with right now. And that's about the time that I got into it. Now, I was married back then. I've never been a pickup artist, but I've been fascinated from a psychological, like, observation. I feel like I joke around and say I'm like Diane Fossey or Jane Goodall, like Gorillas in the Mist. I was like, all I do is like I watch and what are the humans doing, And so my background, I've got 2 degrees. I've got one in I have a bachelor of fine art, and I have a bachelor of science in behavioral psychology. So it was about that time. And the reason why I double majored, by the way, is because I wanted to understand the clients that I was working with at the time. But I also happened to be working for casinos. I was working for the alcohol, wine, spirits industries. So I was out in the field. I was actually out there all the time. That was my job, was to go out there and you do brand management. I was a primary creative for several big names of liquor. And so I was always in the clubs, and I always had to sort of be a chameleon, because if I went to a club that was like sort of a country bar and they're line dancing, that's one social, area. And then if I go to a goth bar, or I go to, like, it might be a martini fest on, Church Street in Orlando, right? And I also have to source girls to be my pour girls, and guys too. I got to have good looking girls and good looking guys who are going to pour drinks for people. So there's that social aspect that was only one part of my job, but that was very educational, in that I'm out there, I'm sober, I'm watching all this stuff go on, and I'm taking mental notes. And so what I would do is I would take those observations back to the SoSwab forums, and we would talk about them. Why do you think this happened? And why is this working? And why is this not working? And then that built up into the pickup artist scene, built up into what we now call the manosphere, really the red pill or game. Game to me today is really social skills. It's not necessarily like, okay, we're going to run this script. These pickup lines will work. Like, that's not game anymore. And if anybody thinks that it is, you're gravely mistaken now. But the science of it developed over the course of probably 10 or 20 years. And I always peg myself as being in this since like about 2004. And so 2004 was my earliest post. I actually joined SoSwap in 2002. So technically I've been in the manosphere, whatever we're calling it, for about 21 years. And in that time, it's just, I've written 5 books. I wrote those books because of demand. I wrote the first one because I had people saying, you know, you've got a blog. I started the blog in 2011, but they said, you got a blog and people would take you more seriously if you put all this shit into a book, right? Because you're just some whack job on the internet who's got, you know, who's got an opinion on a blog. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll codify it in a book. Did that, came out with a, you know, Kindle book. Then I had to do an Audible, and then everybody, it took off and it snowballed, and everybody wanted specifics about things. And so I got it, the rest of my other 4 that came after it are like, they're like specific oriented, but they're still in the red pill space. The red pill has to be a praxeology. It has to be a science. It has to be devoid, it has to be amoral, areligious, apolitical, aracial. It has to be just about intersexual dynamics. Now, can you divorce yourself from all that entirely? No. That's why I say it's not just about evolutionary psychology. It's also about sociology. It's about anthropology. It's about I have to go and like source brain studies for some of this shit so I can like, you know, I can prove a point that's a red pill point, but now suddenly I got to be a fucking neurological scientist, right? Then I've got to go and I got to source stuff for anthropology, or I got to look at like, well, the post-agrarian or pre-agrarian intersexual dynamics, right? There's a sociological aspect to it. There's a psychological, there's a political aspect. There's a religious aspect to it. There's so, you think about how human sexuality, and I don't mean like fucking, I mean like how we, I mean, that's part of it, but like what motivates us and what are the downstreams effect of that motivation when it comes to society. How do we organize society, men and women? We're questioning that right now. It all comes back to one thing. It all comes back to the red pill. It all comes back to, well, what we call the red pill, but the praxeology that is the red pill, in understanding with no bias, or as best we can, no bias, and just looking at it from a nuts and bolts perspective. I wrote the foreword to Ryan Stone's latest book, which is called Praxeology, Frame Praxeology. And I was trying to explain it, and I was talking with Ryan. I said, how can we like make this like understandable to people? Because you use a word like praxeology and people are like, huh? It's like a $10 word. So if you think about the red pills of praxeology, think of it in terms of like, it's a Chilton manual. Do you know what a Chilton manual is?
No.
Chilton manual is like what it was. It's a manual that is specific to a particular car that mechanics would use if they needed to source a part, or if they needed to learn how to tear down a car into down to the last bolt, and how to put it back together again. And so it's like a Chilton manual for intersexual dynamics, in that it will show you where the parts are, how they go together, how they, you know, how everything functions, and how everything is constructed for a 1968 Volkswagen Bug, right? And then, okay, so I've got the Chilton manual for that. The problem is that the Chilton manual is not quite complete, and maybe we want to erase a part and put something back in, but primarily it doesn't care how you drive the car. It doesn't care that you like the car. It doesn't care how, it doesn't tell you how to not turn in a skid. It just tells you this is how the car is built. That's primarily what the red pill should be. And it's based on empiricism. It's not based on emotionalism, although you have to acknowledge emotionalism for some of the aspects of it. And so when I go on Dr. Phil and you go into the lion's den there, I'm speaking the language of like the praxeology. I'm speaking the language of empiricism. And that's really hard for a show that's like based in emotion. So I think that's the disconnect most people have with the red pill, is they want to be told how to feel about the information.
That makes
So
sense.
like if I'm telling them hypergamy, whatever, or if I'm talking about the alpha widows, or I'm talking about war brides dynamics and stuff like that, it's not enough to just tell them the dynamic. Like most people want to go, oh, how should I feel about this role? Give me a prescription, give me a solution for this. The red pill is fundamentally not about solutions. It's about data and how you interpret that data. It's about equipping you so you can make better decisions for your life, for sure. But I always leave the prescriptions up to the individual. So, and people, that rubs people the wrong way.
Sorry about the
It's all right. I know. I get allergies. I get allergies right in like in the springtime when like all the freaking hay seeds out and we got pollen from the pine trees.
Oh, New York. I grew up in Brooklyn. It was
Mhm,
really tough through the different seasons.
mhm.
Okay, well, you have wow, there's so much to unpack.
You know, and
So
people think, let's say that before you continue, people think I'm like really super long-winded about things, and I am, but because I have to be. Because if I don't cover something, people will go, ah, I got him. He
yeah,
didn't,
yeah,
he
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
think
yeah,
of
yeah.
this. I'm like, no, I did. I'm just trying to give it to you in a brief way so it's easily understandable and digestible. And they think they got you on something. And it's like, it's easier for me to be like comprehensive and tell the story like in detail than it is for me to have to backtrack for people who want to like catch me on something. It
I do
takes
the
longer
same
to have
thing.
that discussion than it does for me to like be long-winded and tell you about things.
I completely agree. I'll sense as soon as I say something what people in the comments are going to say. So I completely agree. It's smart to do that.
Oh man, gosh. Let me tell you a really funny story. When I was on Dr. Phil, I had people asking me, they're like, Rollo, are you nervous to go on Dr. Phil? I'm like, no. I'm like, I look out at the audience. There may be like 200 people in the audience. I got more than that in my waiting room
Right.
for my shows. Like I regularly play to like anywhere between 2,200 and 4,000 live views, depending on what the topic is. I'm not nervous about that, but it's like the engagement stuff. You and I, since you do this, I want you to acknowledge this too, because like when I was on Dr. Phil, there's no engagement there. There's no like, well, it's not scripted, but it's outlined. And there's
Mm.
no back and forth. There's no like, what do you think about this? They're like to the audience, or there's no chat room. There's no nothing. And when I was on Dr. Phil, I was completely oblivious to the audience that was there. I was thinking, what are the people who watch this on YouTube gonna say if I say this on Dr. Phil's show? There's no
Right.
chat room, but there may as well be because there's a chat room in here in my head.
Totally. But that's a good way of going about it. You know, it's
Mm,
kind of like if you're on stage singing,
mm,
you ignore everybody there and you
mm.
kind of just do your own thing or you think of something outside of it completely. Yeah, that's good.
Well, you know, you look
Uh,
at I don't know what your like views are, but if I do a show like I just had on my clips, I had one clip go viral and I think it's at 1.7 million views. And that was just a clip, but like the actual show might have 60,000 or 100,000 views. That's going to fill a major stadium. I don't know how many seats there are in like Raider in Allegiant Stadium here, but I'll guarantee you it's probably not above 100,000.
it's really crazy. People don't put that into perspective.
Mhm.
You get a million views on a video. It's
Do you know what a million
absolutely
people
insane.
looks like? Have you ever seen a
Yeah.
million people gathered together?
It's
That's
so many,
I haven't.
so
Mhm.
many, 10,000 people. If
Mhm.
you saw them outside in the street, it's a lot of people.
When I was in my rock star 20s, I played to, I think the largest crowd I ever played to was about 3,000. I was like, fuck, there's a lot of people out here. I regularly have my videos get up to like 20,000, 30,000, 60,000. And yeah, you're right. You have to put it into perspective.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's see here. Let's see here. Hold on. I want to 1 second. I'm gonna go back to the little chat here.
Hmm?
Okay. Uh God, there's so much, man. I could talk to you for 6 hours.
Keep going.
So in terms of just want to make sure we're still recording.
So take your time.
In terms of the red pill, I saw something that I even mentioned this to you in DM.
Mhm.
You were talking about how a lot of these things, a lot of these applications of the red pill, you oftentimes can't even really talk about. And I want to make sure that I'm saying this correctly. You can't even talk about these things a lot of the time with women or with certain women
Mhm.
because there's this emotional barrier where they don't process it the way that it needs to be processed.
Mhm.
So you want to apply it and live it and experience it and just allow it to be as opposed to trying to drill it into the other person.
Mhm.
Am I
Yeah,
saying
you're
that?
correct. There's a psychological principle. It's called the observer effect, and it might be called the Hawthorne effect, like the real name for it. But it's the observer effect. Observing a process changes the process. So, and that's fundamental in any field work when it comes to like psychology and stuff.
Mhm.
When people have like experiments that are in the lab. They're all there. You have to say this is a lab experiment. As I was saying before, like jokingly, it's like I'm the Diane Fossey of the red pill. It's like I go and I take, what are humans doing, right? It's observing it happen. But if people know that they're being observed, they'll behave differently.
True.
Animals will behave differently if you're trying to, if they know they're being watched. So it's like that self-conscious. Like, so observing a process changes that process. And that's the basis of I always have to sort of take like studies that are qualitative studies where people are doing self-reporting. I have to take that with a grain of salt, because the people who go in there know that they're taking an experiment, right? And sometimes there's no way you can get around that. It's still valuable, but it's not as valuable as like a quantitative study where we can look at like, numbers and stats and stuff like that. But yeah, when you are discussing the red pill, I always tell guys, don't discuss the red pill with any woman that you want to get after it with. Don't discuss it with don't discuss it with any woman that you think you might have a potential intimate relationship with, because women don't want to be told about what women want to play the game. They don't want to be told that they're playing the game. They don't want to say, oh, this is how everything works, because it takes the magic out, but it removes the process of interacting with that person, with that woman, by saying, okay, here's what's really going on in this process. So it's observing the process, which changes the process. So it's like guys who are like very analytical, which is a lot of guys today, who want to make an Excel spreadsheet over like, oh, here's why I got rejected. Or I can remember there's a guy, it was in 2014, and people are going to think it's the guy who made the Excel spreadsheet about why his girlfriend or wife wouldn't fuck him. But that's not that. It was this guy who created a data set or an Excel spreadsheet of all the reasons why women rejected him. So he would go to them afterwards and say, hey, can we just be friends? Like he go, okay, why, what is it about me? Because men are deductive problem solvers. It's just bonehead male logic. Like I want to know what I'm doing wrong so I can be successful when I do it right. It's trial and error, right? Hypothesis incorrect. How do I change that? How do I get the effect I'm looking for? So guys being analytical, deductive problem solvers will go to the source and say, okay, it didn't work with you. Why didn't, critique me here. Tell me why it's still popular today. Like guys will do I know I can name some blogs, right? Or some podcasts right now where that's actually their grift, is having a woman come on there and critique the guy's approach and critique his game. What did he do wrong? What did he do right? That's male deductive reasoning. So guys want to apply that, guys who want to apply that to their dating lives or their intersexual, relations with a woman. The problem is you're explaining the game. You are explaining instead of demonstrating. And so by observing the process, you change the process. No woman's going to give you an honest answer to begin with. That's level one. The other thing is the very fact that you would want to do that shows that you don't understand. So when a guy says, well, what did I do wrong? How do I get better at this game? Right? The fact that you're asking the person you were trying to get better with, how do I do that? That's observing the process that changes the process. So I tell guys that, again, this is not a prescription. This is just like, this is why that shit doesn't work for you, is if you're trying to like understand why women don't want to fuck you, don't ask for that data from the girl. Go out and see what's going on in the wild. Go out and observe it without affecting the process that you are already involved in. Because women they say they want the truth, but they don't want full disclosure. They want to play the game. They don't want to be told that they are playing a game. So, because if you're in the process and women will call it, we don't even know what to call it. We just know it when we see it. So women call it vibing. Right? We connect, we're on a wavelength or something. No, you're not. This just the guy's good at playing the game without you realizing you're playing a fucking game. And maybe he knows, and maybe he's just really good at it because he's a natural and he probably doesn't even know why his game's all that good. Or maybe he does, but he's such a good fucking player that he makes you think it's all organic. And there's no motive, there's no manipulation. It's manipulation, it's psychological game. That's why I call it game, right? I don't want any guy who's going to play games. Well, you're playing games just by interacting with the guy, because it's all
a dance. It's all a game.
We're vibing, man. If I go and I say, like, for instance, I've had guys say this, well, women should just communicate like guys, like say what they mean and mean what they say. Then you'd be dating a guy.
Right.
Because
Right.
that's like, guys, we're very deductive and very pragmatic and very efficient and try to be problem solvers.
Rollo, you know what it is? We all guys jokingly, yeah, on occasion, I don't like the word complain, but women are very different. They're more emotional. So we've all been used to this. If they make something more complicated than it needs to be, or they drag things out or aren't
Well,
direct,
you probably heard guys like say, like they get, especially like what we call gamma males or incels, whatever, like guys who are like hyper analytical and hyper literal, and they get really frustrated. And by the way, this is not a new phenomenon. This has been around since human beings have been human beings.
Mm-hmm.
But you got these guys who get really super analytical, and they go, why does my crush, why does the girl I really want to get with not want to get with me? I have a job. I'm kind of good looking. I come from a good family. I would never treat her bad. I will be a good father. And you could just enumerate all of these value added qualities. And the girl goes and fucks the hot guy in the foam cannon party in Cancun on spring break. And then the guy does, because it's that male deductive logic. How can she not see that I'm the perfect fit for her? And I would never treat her shitty like the jerk boyfriend she keeps going back to and complains about and calls me up or calls her girlfriends up and cries a bloody river about. And they just don't understand why, because logically, that doesn't make any sense. It's illogical. Like, then so what they say, well, women are just irrational and illogical. No, they're logical. It's just that you're not the logical. Your conclusion is not her conclusion. She wants to fuck that guy and lock him down in the hopes that she can change that guy to be you, because
with an edge,
he makes
a more
her feel
exciting
something.
you, a much more exciting.
They want to bang Justin Waller. They don't want to bang you.
100%.
But the guy says, well, wouldn't it be great if you could just reason with a woman like you would reason with a man? And so, okay, here's my checklist. I'm dependable. I'm loyal. I go to church on Sundays. I like puppy dogs. I want kids. I come from a good family. I go to the gym. I got my point with my businesses, blah, blah. I'm the perfect mate for you. You know what you just did? You've explained. You've observed the process, and she doesn't want to have anything to do with you because she wants the magic. She's like, no guy has ever reasoned a woman into bed.
100%. You're not going to convince her into it. It's just not, it doesn't. And you're never going to have genuine desire. Or
reasoned a woman into marrying her, or reasoned a woman into be, I got to take it out of the realm of sex all the time, so people don't think I'm just talking about like getting your rocks off. Reasoned a woman into a relationship.
Yeah, that'll never get you to the place you want to be. And if you do manage to pull that off, you'll never be in a leadership position.
Black pill doomers hate it when I bring this up because they think it should be a process of just absolute Mr. Spock logic. I don't know. Women are just hoes if they can't see how great I am. Look at me, I'm a catch, right? Still jerking off on a Friday night, right? Because they don't know how to play. And the very me saying you need to learn how to play the game. I would never do anything to learn how to make a bitch want to have sex with me. I have too much respect for myself. No, if you want to be successful in relationships, if you want to be however you define success, if you want to get laid, if you want to have a wife, even if you're a trad con, hey, you still have to play the game. You still have to, and the thing is like, I got these guys in like MGTOWs who want to say, I'm just exiting the game. The only winning move is not to play. You're still playing. Until you're in that underground, you're still playing.
What does that mean, Rollo? If they're not playing, then they're jerking off at home. I mean, they have to get it. So what are they doing? They're
just refusing to engage. It's like the people always ask me like, what problem do you have with the MGTOW? I don't have any problem with the MGTOW. Please go your own way. In fact, I've argued this, and nobody ever gives me any pushback when I say this. If you become red pill aware, you can't help but go your own way. You've probably gone your own way, in your own way, right? Like,
but it's very nuanced. What does going your own way mean? It can mean something to everybody else,
right? So for instance, if you read my book and suddenly you have this like, holy shit, this like explains everything, right? How are you going to live your life after you become red pill aware? You're certainly not going to live like the rest of these schmucks. You're going to go your own way. How you use that information and that equipment and that education, it's up to the individual. So when guys say, Rollo's a cuck. He's blue pill because he's married. Okay. Well, do you think that my mind is different today as a result of being who I have been, doing what I've been doing for the last 20 years? Do you think I've gone my own way? No, you're married. Okay. Well, I can't be red pill because I'm married, and I can't be married because I'm red pill. Right. So it's like, I can't win either way. But the idea is that the people want to say, well, Rollo doesn't understand MGTOW. I do. I completely understand MGTOW. It's that I know that there's a spectrum for MGTOW. There's the guys who are on one end, like Aaron Clary, I would say, is like MGTOW in a way. I mean, he is definitely going his own way. He's not married. He's got a girlfriend. Good dude. He's living his best life. He loves what he does. He's very happy about it. George Gammon, another guy I know in entrepreneur space, when technically he's a good living example of a multimillionaire who's going his own way. But is he in, making 6-hour podcasts about how fucked up women are today? No, he's too busy doing it. He's too busy making money. He's too busy doing his thing. So there's one spectrum, like on MGTOW, where it's like, there's guys who are married who consider themselves MGTOW. They just simply don't make women the measure of their self-esteem, of their own esteem, or their self-worth, right? That, I think, if there's a defining aspect of MGTOW, it's that you don't make women the metric of your self-worth. That, I think, that all across the spectrum, every one of them can agree with that. Got it. Perfect. Then I'm 100% on board. When you start telling me, repeal the 19th, these bitches aren't worth it, it's moral degeneracy, the black pill, we're all doomed, it's looks maxing, that kind of shit, that's where I check out. That's where I go, dude, that's just you wanting to find a cope to not to justify why you're not competitive in the sexual marketplace, to justify why you don't want to be competitive, or why the juice isn't worth the squeeze to you. Right. And again, going back to the praxeology question, they take the data and they create a practice out of that data. So you've got guys who are in the pickup artist space, or you got guys who are in like the game space. They take that data and they go, you know what? I can leverage this to my advantage. And they go out. They're players, but I mean players in the sense that, like, now they understand female nature and their nature, so they can make it work for their best advantage. And then you got like tradcons. Tradcon is a prescription. MGTOW is a prescription. Black pill is a prescription. What else? Oh, MRAs. MRAs is a prescription. I mean, name the faction. They're only factions because they have a particular ideology or prescription that they take the data from the red pill and then they apply it to whatever their pet ideology is.
It's so funny that there's so many different. What are tradcons? I'm not even familiar.
Traditional conservatives.
Okay.
Now you're new here.
I've heard you say it so many times. I'm not going to act. Dude, I'm not going to act like I know everything.
It's all right. Tradcons. Let's give you some examples. Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens.
Okay.
Definitely Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh is their king. I think who else? I would throw Jordan Peterson in there. I don't even want to put Michaela in the same world.
You give that girl
she's functionally autistic. So I'm trying to think who else would be a good example. I would have said Elijah Schaefer up until probably about a year ago. Charlie Kirk, definitely a tradcon. I don't know if you even know who these names are.
I know who they are. I know who they all are.
Pretty much anybody who's on Daily Wire, tradcon.
Right. I happen to be a Ben Shapiro fan. I like Ben Shapiro.
PragerU very much.
Yeah, I like Ben Shapiro 100%. Regardless of how maybe he views the world in the dating space. Mm-hmm. You mentioned you're married. Mm-hmm. I've never seen your wife or anything. I guess you purposely have it like that. You want to keep her out of the public eye. Huh?
I think people overthink that too much, honestly. I've been married for 26 and a half years. My wife is gorgeous. People go, oh man, she's so thin. I'm like, yeah, she's thin for a reason, because we work out and we take care of ourselves. My wife looks better than, I would say, 80% of women who are like probably half her age right now. I can say that confidently. You know why? Because 75% of the US population is overweight.
Right.
And for women, 40% of women are morbidly obese. So statistically speaking, yeah, she's an outlier for sure. I have a daughter who is 24 years old, and was a pageant winning girl. So, and she's got a master's degree and she graduated with honors. So when people like throw rocks at me for being like red pill in the perspective, like people want to cast me as being like sort of a dating coach or a PUA guy, but yet I've got a marriage that's 26 and a half years long. I got a great daughter, and we have a great family. And it's like I have what most guys would think would be an ideal marriage. I have sex with my wife all the time, right? And by the way, I can go down and do Access Vegas, and my wife is like, we'll look through the girls and say, oh, that one looks good. She's we're not swingers or anything. She's just like, we'll critique the
I was
look
going
of
to
the
ask you
girl.
that, by the way. I
Yeah.
really wanted to hear. I wanted to
No,
know if you were,
monogamous. Sorry, I think monogamy is going to make a comeback. Really,
I think it's
heterosexual, monogamous
Rollo,
relationships.
I think that's awesome. By the way,
It's going to make
Rollo,
a comeback.
I think I am very pro monogamy, not because I wouldn't want, let's be honest, man. If I'm married, especially a couple of years in, and my wife comes over and says, hey, I kind of want to introduce another girl into it, I would probably think she's testing me and trying to bait me.
Like so, oh, you really wanted that. Got
Yeah,
you. See, you're really not who you said you were.
I knew it.
I knew it.
Yeah, but I think
How many OnlyFans girls are you following? Got you. Okay, so as far as my wife is concerned,
yeah.
she doesn't have a Facebook, she doesn't have an Instagram, she doesn't have an OnlyFans, she's not on Tinder, it has no social media footprint, not because Rollo Tomassi said, bitch, you better not have it. I'm not, I didn't pull it. She could have, I wish she would in some cases, but she just has no interest and never has really, because she does what she does. We live our fucking lives. Can we do that like offline too? So when people go, I'm going to go hunt down Rollo's, like people have hunted down and doxed my wife, my daughter, and my mother-in-law, because they will go and hunt like pictures off of my daughter's like Instagram or my daughter's like Facebook. And then like there might be a shot of my wife that's on there, right? So, but I don't make my wife part of my brand. And the reason why I do that is because the minute I do, I turn my brand into an ideology. So that's why I kept saying when I do my stuff, when I'm talking and when I'm doing speaking engagements, when I'm writing books, again, it has to be asocial, apolitical, a-religious, whatever, ideological. When you pair the red pill with religion, when you pair the red pill with politics, when you pair the red pill with your marriage, now people can dismiss you because they go, I get it. That's the ideology. He's one of these tradcon guys. He probably goes to church on Sunday. Fuck it. On to the next one, right? Rather than, stopping for a moment and listening to what a person has to say. So I've never made her a part of my brand. I will never make her a part of my brand. She will never be sitting next to me doing interviews or anything like that. Right. Not because I don't want to show. She doesn't want to be there. And I'll tell you the reason why I was very secretive, and I still go by Rollo Tomassi, and I didn't show my face until 2017, was because I was working for like the liquor industry. I had a portfolio of about 24 brands. Some of them would have been okay with me being who I am. Other people, they would try to get me fired. They would try to get me canceled. So I kept anonymity for the protection of my wife, my daughter, my family, my dog. It's like there's a reason why Batman has a secret identity. It's not because he's like egotistical or anything like that. He just wants to protect the people who would get hurt if anybody knew who he was.
You said you had a greyhound, right?
I have two. Well, I've got one now. I will soon have two again. I usually have anywhere between 4 and 2 greyhounds. So I've been fostering and reconditioning, and I actually am adopting the ones that we fail.
That's nice.
But I've been doing that for about 12 years now. So
that's awesome. I just love that. I love people that love cats, dogs, or either one of them.
Oh, there's no bad dogs. There's only bad owners.
100%. I want to get a Belgian Malinois. You know that breed?
Yes, I do. Gad Saw, that's his favorite breed, actually.
It's the best. It's well, he's also a Heeb. It's the standard. It's the standard dog in the Israeli military. So
and I understand why. Very intelligent, very athletic. They're the German Shepherd of Israel, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we used to use German Shepherds, but they have a lot of them have spinal issues.
Yeah, they get the hip dysplasia.
Right.
Greyhounds get it too. That's why I know.
Really? Yeah. But I'm obsessed with those dogs. Love them. So I actually think that because you have a successful marriage, to me personally, I take your points a lot more seriously because you have a successful marriage.
Mhm.
And I think that's why a lot of other people do too. You might not even realize that. I think that's
Some
the
of
case
them.
because you have a stable family. You
Mhm.
you don't push your family in front of everybody.
They're not my
And
brand.
say again.
They're not my brand.
Right. I think you're doing a great job. I think you're living life on your terms. Clearly, your wife respects you, and I just think you're a great example. So,
Well, see,
uh,
it's a blessing and a curse, because if I go on with like someone like Jedediah Bila, who's very much a tradcon, or I go with like the best part is like if Matt Walsh were to come at me like he just recently did at Ryan Stone, he would have nothing to say, because actually I've been married longer than Matt Walsh has. So if he wanted to come at me, I've got that sort of as like, well, you can talk shit about me and you can talk shit about the red pill, but what you can't talk shit about is the results, because I've got at least as good, if not better results than you do, right? If you're going to flex, I don't flex my family. I don't
right.
need to. It's not my brand. It's not, I'm trying to talk about like greater concepts than just like, oh, he's got a wife. Um, I'm around beautiful women all the time. When I was in my rock star 20s, when I was in the gambling industry doing promos, when I'm doing in the liquor industry, and now I'm doing this with Access Vegas. I'm sitting next to girls who are like half my age on Fresh and Fit. People go, oh, how many guys' wives would be cool with that?
Yeah, your wife must be really, really
Well, because
trusting.
well, it's not so yeah, well, that, but it's also value. It's also intrinsic value. People start to go, what's a high value man, right? Well, high value man is the guy that a woman knows that her man is the guy that other men want to be and other women want to fuck, but yet
You see,
he's with her.
you
I'm
could
saying,
cheat, but you don't, and
yeah,
that's
women.
you're
So
100%.
that's, yeah, I was gonna say that's one of my sayings is like, women don't want a man to cheat, but they love a man who could cheat. And it's because I have options. I don't want to. I
Right,
have no reason to.
right.
I got real good home cooking and have had it for 26 years.
I love what you're saying, man.
I
I
don't need a
love what you're saying.
threesome. I had I had my fun when I was in my 20s, and like now I'm like, I'm not saying I don't think the girls are hot, especially when they look like freaking Brandy, freaking what Andrews like last Thursday. I mean, god damn. But I'm not dead, but I, I'm I'm with my wife, right? That's, to
I
me, that's
come.
like, if I think sex, I think Mrs. Tomassi. I don't think sex with these girls.
That's special, man. Because at the end of the day, it's like, does your hindbrain, does your dick want that? Do you want other women? Yeah, there's a desire, but when you weigh the two and
I
you
know what
think
an
of the
attractive
love,
woman looks like. Am I aroused? Hell yeah, for sure. But like, am I gonna act on that? No.
that's
That's the thing
awesome.
that gets me is like, I know this is probably in your question list. So let me just see if I can preempt you.
Sure. Okay.
um, you'll hear guys like Myron on Fresh and Fit, or Andrew Tate for sure. Kevin Samuels just says the same thing. It's like a high value man should cheat or is
No, I
gonna
don't agree.
cheat. Or no, Justin Waller. Justin Waller's like, if you got a high value man and he's in a room with a hot chick and the opportunity's there and she wants the desire's there, he's gonna push that button every time. And I can tell you right now, I said it just depends on the dude. It depends on the guy and what his relationship is. And the problem is that if I say, and I would put myself into that hypothetical situation, I'm sitting here and there's a girl buck naked across from me in this room right now. You're gonna fuck her, aren't you? Well, first of all, she's not gonna be in this room. And then second of all, would you want to do that? Want is one thing, do is another. So when everybody says all guys are only as loyal or only as faithful as their options, that is true, because most guys don't have options,
100%.
or they don't get into a position where they would ever be in that state where they would have to decide, oh my god, I can't tell if I want to fuck her or I don't. No, you want to fuck her, but
Oh yeah.
the want and the desire is there. Is that guy going to actually do that? Is he going to behave that way? That's the test, and that's the real, I think that's the difference here. Now, should high value men cheat? I'm not going to say they should or they shouldn't, because I don't deal in shoulds. Will he? Not, it's not always 100% sure, 100% certain. But the problem is that when you present that and say a high value man could cheat, yes, I'll say yes for sure. Should he cheat? I'll say no, because it just depends on the individual. But it's also, Most guys don't get into that position. And then second of all, it's based on this idea that that's unfalsifiable. So if I say I'm a high value guy, I've been married for 26 years, I've never cheated on my wife, people go, you sure? You did? Yeah, of course you've been smashing those girls. But like they want to make they want to fantasize that you're actually not who you say you are. I am who I say I am. And so if I am who I say I am, then I'm a cuck, or then I'm blue pill. Then I'm not I can't be a high value guy if I'm have the opportunity and I'm not fucking those girls. See what I'm saying? So it's unfalsifiable. So if I go and I say, look, I've been married for 26 and a half years. I've never fucked anybody but my wife in those 26 and a half years. I've never, got a blowjob. I've never got, I'll always bring it home to mama, right? That's always what I've done. Then I'm a blue pill schmuck because I haven't done that, because I'm clearly I'm high value enough to be, rubbing elbows with these girls who are half my age. So what am I? Am I blue pill? Am I low value? Or maybe I'm high value, but I'm blue pill in my head. What is it? It's unfalsifiable.
I think it makes you
because
the
if you're
highest
not
value.
doing it, you're not that person. If you are doing it, congratulations, you're a moral degenerate and you're not who you say you are.
I think it makes you the highest value to be able
It's
to
a
do it and
no-win.
not
It's a
do it.
no-win situation.
Well, fuck it,
I'm
right?
very familiar with a lot of those. There's a lot of variations of that in the manosphere.
It's just so funny how people take your knowledge and teachings and they go in 50 different directions with it. It's just so interesting. They take it the way they want to.
That's
Yeah,
what
you
I
can't
told
win.
Doctor. That was the first thing out of my mouth on Dr. Phil. It was like,
Right.
I've been doing this for so long and people have taken my work and it's used it as the basis or inspiration, or their work or their whatever they're doing is a derivative of something that I've done in the past. And I'm not saying I'm the originator of all this shit. So just don't, I know people like, this is me thinking chat. People are going to see this and they're going to get, I know what you're going to say. Okay. But I went up on Dr. Phil and I said, yeah, it's been bastardized and it's been distorted and corrupted. And it's been like one way or the other to the extreme on like the Andrew Tate side. And then like maybe on the TradCon side, who's anti-red pill and then pro-red pill. Both of those have taken that work to ridiculous extremes, like absurd extremes. So the first thing I said on Dr. Phil is like, I've been in this and doing this for so long, and people have used my work for so much and corrupted it and bastardized it for so long that I got to come on Dr. Phil and be a Andrew Tate apologist. And I'm not going to do that. I think the work stands on its own, no matter who you think should be the figurehead of it.
Right. Yeah, no, I remember you saying that verbatim.
Yeah.
So let's see here. Then we spoke, okay, there's also oh, you know what? I wanted to get into this actually, because I spoke to Michael Sartain about this when I had him on my podcast.
Did you bring him on a Zoom call or what did you do?
It was a Zoom call. It was a Zoom call. I was actually wearing this exact same sweater, now that come to think of it. So we spoke about male and female friendship, and he's very pro the idea, but I don't, to call him out, and I think he's a very smart guy. I love you, but you guys are great together, and I agree with almost everything he says. The one thing I didn't agree with, and I think I kind of got him on this, he says men and women can absolutely be friends. And I think the only reason that he's friends, and they happen to all be attractive, I don't think he's friends with any unattractive women. And I think the simple reason he's friends with them is because he's created such a large group of women around him that if he's friends with them and doesn't show much interest in having sex with them, as a byproduct, they're going to trust him. More and more women are going to enter his circle, and then he has all of his pickings. So I think it's friendship with the intent for unlimited sexual options. Because I asked him, if all of these women that you befriended were not willing to have sex with you, let's say there are 200 of them in a circle, and each of them, for whatever reason, just said, Michael, you're cool. We will never have sex with you. I don't know if he would spend his time doing this. What's your take?
Okay, so that will probably be the one point of contention that we'll always have a debate over, like myself and Mike. Now, Mike is in a very unique position, and I think people recognize this primarily because whenever I have this discussion, and it's come up a lot on a lot of different shows, it's usually I have to define the friendship aspect so that he knows that his experience with intersexual friendship is way more different as definitely an extreme outlier from what most guys experience. So in my book, I have a chapter in there saying what the title is letting go of invisible friends, because most guys want to start like a long-term relation or a long distance relationship. And so it's like very platonic and they want to make it intimate. Or there's guys who will get into like playing friends, like they'll accept a let's just be friends rejection. And they think that, oh, I'm really her friend. You can be friends in the hopes that there's a chance, you know, like if I prove myself later on down the line, then we'll be fucking soon. Right. She wants to fuck me, but she wants to be friends now because I didn't prove myself well enough to her. So I'm going to now persevere and I'm going to be persistent about it. That's I think is one of the more dangerous kind of mindsets for like blue pill guys. And by the way, I've heard guys like Grant Cardone say that kind of shit. I have heard guys who are in the positivity motivational speaking circuit saying, yeah, well, I'm with my wife who has like you can tell has next to zero respect for that guy. But he's very proud of the fact that he was persistent and she gave him a let's just be friends rejection. He stuck at it and stuck at it and stuck at it until the point where he's like making a shit ton of money. And now maybe suddenly you look like you might be a good partner for me. Like that's a story for a lot of guys. But it begins with the friendship thing and the belief that men and women can be platonic friends. So if you're fucking your friends, are they still your friends? Right? Because even Mike was saying this, he probably said on your show, I was like, yeah, but I've had sex with my friends. Well, how many guys are doing that right now? Like,
changes the game.
The general populace is not fucking their friends. Okay, that's why they're their friends. I would say that being platonic friends with a woman is mutually exclusive from actually fucking that woman or having had fucked that woman in the past or wanting to fuck that woman in the future. So I always put it into perspective. You have to remember, like, it's not just When Harry Met Sally, right? It's that scene in that movie. It's compare your friendship with your best guy friend. Like think of who's your best friend? Who's your best guy friend, right? Is the guy behind, he's your roommate?
I got a couple of
a couple guys. Let's just say there's 2 or 3 guys that you know.
Yeah.
Now think about how you relate with those guys. Like, hey man, you want to go get a drink down the beach or whatever the fuck, whatever, I don't know what you do. Like, let's go to the gym, right? You have a different kind of men when it comes to intra-sexual friendships. We have a different way with relating with each other, and women have, when it's women and women, they have same-sex friendships, they have a different way of communicating and being friends like women are friends with women. Men, the way men are friends with other men is way, way different than how women are friends with women. So for example, I could be on the phone with Mike, who I consider a very close, good personal friend. And I'm like, hey, what's up, fucker? You know, or hey, we're gonna do this. Yeah, okay, cool. And you just hang up, no goodbye, no nothing, or whatever.
Yep.
And my wife or like my daughter be like, "Are you guys fighting? Is there something wrong? Is this are you
So
no? What gives you that impression? Because we're relating, we're friends, and we communicate as males with males.
That's what I love about being a guy.
Right? For women, it's like, hey, let's go down to Starbucks and reconnect. I really want to catch up with you. And it's like the act of communication and being like that whole thing is very satisfying for women. So as a result of that, women and women form friendships with each other, and men form friendships with each other way, way differently. So now take a man, you take a woman, and you go, we're just going to be friends. Okay. But what's going to set the friendship dynamic between the male friend and the female friend? Female friend, her only frame of reference for friendship is her girlfriends. The guy, his frame of reference for friendship is his guy friends. So when I say men and women can't be friends, I think I should probably add a little caveat to that and saying that they can't be friends in the same way that they're friends with their guy friends or women with their women friends, because it's a completely different dynamic. The problem is guys will make concessions and will tolerate so much more bullshit with a female friend that if their male friend did the same thing, they would fucking punch. They would come to blows. It would come to blows. They will tolerate so much more.
Well, that's because there's the underlying desire for sex, and
well, there is, but it's even if they're like, guys will say, I have no desire to fuck her. Okay, so you could say that's a cope, and maybe it's not, maybe it is. Okay, but even if it's not, still the fact that she's a woman, even if you don't want to fuck her, you have, I don't have any arousal for her. She's just a good friend. She's a platonic friend. Okay, you are still going to treat her differently because she is female, and you can't help but doing that because she's going to respond to you as how a woman would respond to a girlfriend. So that's why I said, like, and this is one of my quotes out of my book, is like, women have boyfriends and girlfriends. If you are not fucking her, you are her girlfriend.
I
And the reason for that is because that woman, and again, people say, oh, that's horrible, Rollo, don't you believe in friendship? I'm like, no, it's not that. It's not because that's not as harsh as it really sounds. Because what happens is when women are relating with women in a friendship capacity, they have that women and women friendship dynamic going on. When a guy comes in and says, hey, I want to be your friend too, and she says, okay, cool, you can be friends, she's going to refer to you, or she's going to see you communicating like her girlfriends do, because guys will make compromises and would tolerate more bullshit. And what happens is you end up becoming her girlfriend because her only frame of reference is how she deals with her same-sex friends. That's why I say, if you're not fucking her, if you're not intimate with her, and you're pretending to be friends, or maybe you think you are friends, she's still going to communicate with you and deal with you as if she's a same-sex friend. That's what that means. People like lose their minds when I say that. And I'm like, I have to explain it to them. They still don't get it.
You know, it's funny,
it's not about the fucking part. It's about the friendship part.
Rollo, you're explaining this beautifully. You articulate it so well. From my perspective, growing up as a religious Jew and learning about dynamics from like a biblical perspective. I'm not religious now. I'm totally traditional, secular.
I'm probably more Jewish than you are.
Very well could be. Wait, what are you? What are you, Italian?
No, I am not Italian. Stop it. No, I am. No,
Your
I'm
name
Danish.
sounds so Italian. Your name sounds so. Oh, come to think of it, I think you said this. I think you mentioned I'm not Italian. I think you. So what?
No, people want to know, where'd you get the name Rollo Tomassi? By the way, the name Rollo Tomassi is my pen name. It's a pseudonym. It's what I use when I'm a writer. It's not my actual real name. Okay.
Oh.
But when people hear Tomassi at the end of it, they go, he's trying to pretend he's Italian. That guy is not Italian. Just look at the guy, right? No, it's from a movie. It's from this movie.
So
called
your
LA
name isn't even
Confidential.
Rollo Tomassi. Holy shit! This is a total fuckery. Okay.
Well, so you want to know this? If you want to know the story behind that, I started referring to myself. I used it as my online like name on the forums back in the day, right? Back in the SoSwab days, like the mid 2000s. And the name is from a character, or like a fictional character in the movie LA Confidential, and also the book of the same name, which I regard as one of the best red pill movies of all time. But it's got an all-star cast: Danny DeVito, Russell Crowe, Kim Basinger, Guy Pearce. Who else is in this one too? Kevin Spacey. I mean, it's just an all-star cast. You cannot miss that. I can't believe if you're an American, you got to watch this movie because it's like part of Americana. Like, so I took the name Rollo Tomassi from a fictional villain that is in that movie, and it just stuck, and I kept using it, and that's what people started referring to me as Rollo. And I just went with it. I used it as my writer's name, my pen name is Rollo Tomassi.
Just think of the chocolate.
So Rollo, not Rollo. And then there's the Vikings guy, from Rollo from Vikings, right? Who was actually a real historical figure. But no, I'm Danish. I'm not Italian. I'm not pretending to be Italian. Do I look like I'm fucking Italian?
I'm actually part Italian.
I can talk like I'm Italian, but I cannot be. I will never be Italian.
Well, okay. That's so funny though. So yeah, in terms of the friendships, it's interesting. When I was younger, when I was a teenager, I've had friendships with women, but it was always through another guy friend. So I had one or two guys that always had a bunch of girlfriends. Mm-hmm. So I would hang out with them in that circle. But if the girl was attractive, to keep it real, I was either trying to date her or have sex with her. And I would look at it and be like, is there something wrong with me? Like, why can't I just be friends with these women? Like, why can't I go out and go to the movies and play pool and talk to them and go to the mall? I'm like, why am I so focused? Why am I so driven to accomplish a certain goal? Mm-hmm. And then as I got older, I was to bring it back to this religious Jewish point is, no, I just understand, my brain understands that men and women were created for a specific purpose. Mm-hmm. And trying to push this idea of friendship, it's nice, it's utopian, we like it, especially women, they love this idea. But it's not how the way we're built. It's not natural.
Well, it's not that I think men and women have to be hostile and confrontational and fuck all women. I don't want
of course not,
except for the chick that I'm banging. But see, that's the binary mentality that the guys and girls
Well,
have.
let me
Right?
elaborate if you don't mind, because I want to expound on that a little bit, because it
Like
does.
what
Let
constitutes
me
a
give
female friend?
let me give you the gray area. I am very friendly with women, meaning if she's a colleague, if we have a work focus, if we're working together, strictly platonic. I'm not trying to fool around with her. Will I want to possibly? Could it happen? Has it happened? Yes. In my real estate office, for example, I haven't done it with any of them because I'm going to have to see them again. We might have some sort of fallout, and it's not worth the risk. So in that case, I do develop a friendship with them. But even so, it never gets to the level that I have with my guy friends.
Okay,
You know,
so let me ask you this. I asked Mike this too when this whole topic first came up. What do you, if you believe that you can be platonic friends with a girl, what is the nature of that friendship? Meaning, like, what do you do? Most guys will say, "Hey, man, we just hang out." Okay, what does
I
hang out
don't
mean?
do
What does
that.
hang out mean? What exactly interests do you share that you go, "Hey, Becky,
Sex,
let's go
sex.
bowling today." You know how we both love bowling so much. Like, is there a shared interest that you have? Is there like something, or is it we go hang out? Okay, what is hang out? Do you go over to her house and sit on her bed and paint your toenails? Because like,
The
what's
same
the
reason.
hangout? What's the activity? What's the mutual interest there?
It's the same reason Michael does it, though. Michael does it, in my opinion, and
Michael
this is
has a
not
business interest in it, right? That's
right. He's
I
making
know what
money.
his interest is.
Yeah. He's making, but I also think as a human, he likes the respect and attention that comes along with it. It's a rarity. It's
Yeah.
very uncommon to see a man with that many women around.
Mhm.
And I think there's several reasons for doing it, but I think the one reason he's not doing it is because he just loves being around a ton of women. I'm sure he enjoys their company, but I think it's mostly
Mhm.
for the status, the
Well, yeah.
sexual
Okay.
options, and the business.
Okay. So that's reaffirming ego, basically, at that point. Like, where women will say, "Oh, that's validation." No, but what do you do with the girl? Like, the girl, you say, "I don't want to fuck you. I want to be a friend. Let's go parasailing." What
Yeah.
is it? What's the activity? What else is there? Is it just like, "Hey, man, I'm really feeling bad. I really want to talk to you. Let's go to Starbucks and catch up." What is the basis of that friendship? Like, the most of the friendships that I have are not just, they weren't, put it this way. Remember I told you how guys form friendships differently than women form friendships, right?
Sure.
Men do, women talk. So most of the friends, like, I have different tribes. For instance, like, my band is a tribe. There's two guys and there's one girl. Okay. Livy is our singer. I consider her a friend. Do I want to fuck Livy? No, I do not want to fuck Livy. Okay. But I'm also not saying, "Hey, Livy, let's go see the latest Marvel movie at the IMAX." I'm not doing that. I love her to death. We write great lyrics together. We do something together that is a mutual interest, which is, we're both in the same band. She's a singer. I'm a musician. She's a musician. We both write lyrics. We both write lyrics for the songs and everything like that. There's a mutual
Interest.
interest in a mutual project that we work on. But if I was just saying, I think I'm looking for a female friend out of the blue, and I think you'll do, right? That's not how we form friendships. So when I'm in a band with guys, it's because I play the same instrument and we collectively put the project together. With the sum of the total is better than the sum of the parts, right?
Mhm.
So when guys communicate, it's usually because they're doing something. So they have a mutual interest in, like, lifting weights or fixing cars or fishing or whatever the fuck it is. And that's how guys form friendships that might last a lifetime. You might be just
Right.
in the military, you might be in high school, you might be in college, but you had something that brought both of you together that you both do together, and you go, "Hey, we're going to go play basketball. That's our thing, right? We're going to go play today. Hey, we haven't done it in a while. Let's go play. Let's go shoot some hoops, whatever it is, fish, whatever." There's an activity, and that's usually what defines the communication between the man and the woman. For women get off on just communication. They love the act of
People
action.
versus things.
Yeah, I mean,
Versus things. Yeah.
there's experimental research where they will show that women get dopamine hits just from the act of conversing with other women. So, and it's not like maybe men don't too, but the men do it for their different reason. We look out at the world, women look at each other when they're communicating. And so that communication style also is reflective of how we form friendships. So I've always asked guys, I said, "What do you do with your female friends?" Because I'm casting it in a male perspective, right? What do you do? Do you go deep sea fishing with Becky? Does she will she bait the hooks? Will she clean the fish afterwards and fillet the fish because she's
Yeah.
really into fishing? Maybe she will. I don't know. But, like, guys never have like a concrete answer about that. Now, getting back to the point with Mike, though, Mike has a definite professional interest in staying friends with every one of these girls. Let's just be honest here, okay? He's also told me, is like, yeah, but I fuck some of these girls who turned into my friends. I'm like, okay, well, that kind of like, that's a detail we need to add to the friendship equation.
That's a little different. I also believe, Rollo, real quick, that I become better friends with. I have actually more capable of being friends with a girl after we've fucked than before, because
Posting that clarity, yeah.
Posting a clarity, we get it out of the way.
You know, I don't want to make you my wife, but you'd be a pretty good friend.
Yeah, and that's what they sometimes have the awkwardness, because there's emotion now. But for me, since there was no emotion, I'm like, okay, I see them, I bump into them.
Or see, that's another thing is like most women will never understand about guys is their ability to like separate the sex act from an emotional investment. Yeah. That's why guys love porn. No, there's no emotional investment in that whatsoever. So no, what I was gonna say is that for as far as Mike is concerned, he knows he's an outlier. He would, if he was in this conversation right now, he would say exactly the same thing. But it's also, Mike is really big on social proof and pre-selection. As you were saying before, if you've got a lot of hot girlfriends and you walk into the club and your girlfriends get you laid with other girls, that's, hey man, it's leverage, do it. If you're going to be friends, but remember, that's the thing he does. Remember I said, what do you do with your girlfriends? He goes to clubs with his girlfriends so they can be his social proof and his pre-selection for other girls that he wants to fuck in clubs. And he doesn't even need them really. At this stage, he doesn't need a wing girl or somebody who's hanging on. Yeah, he doesn't need arm candy to get him laid. But it comes back to what's the definition of friendship between a man and a woman. And I would say, can men and women be friends? Yes, but not in the same way that men and men are friends and women are friends. And it will always be primarily, it will always be in the woman's frame. Guys, like women don't primarily look for a guy. It works both ways, I should say, but they don't primarily look for a guy who's a hot guy that they're attracted to say, you know what? I don't want to fuck him, but I just want to be his friend. Women don't do that. Men are the ones who initiate friendship with women, not the other way around. And it's usually in proximity, like work. You were just mentioning your workplace, or it's a church, or it's some social gathering. For me and Livy, it's a band, right? It's there's a reason to be together in the first place, instead of just, oh, I think I'm just going to go and form a friendship with somebody. It doesn't work. Human friendships don't work that way as it is. But the dynamic between men and women will always, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a sexual, like I want to fuck her. It is the fact that she's a woman and you're a man, and you're going to approach friendship from fundamentally different contexts.
I could not agree more. So to move along a little bit, I love what you're saying is great.
Well, the social, by the way, let me clarify that real quick. The social proof aspect of what Mike is saying is not wrong. He's 100% right about that. Being friends with it benefits him to be friends with certain, especially the more attractive, the better, right?
Oh, but it's also a lot of time. Like as far as
I know, I have not yet met one of Mike Sartain's female friends who is overweight and looks like she's a 40-year-old divorcee.
Of course not. Of course not. Of course not. But that's just, I wouldn't have.
And I'm happy about that.
I just wouldn't have the energy to be around that many women that often, quite honestly.
It's not as hard as you think it is. I think people think of it as this constant effort, and it goes back to the plate spinning principle, which is like, oh, Rollo, I could never spin plates because who has time for 4 girls or 3 girls?
No, that's different though. But that's different because spinning, having sex is different than going out with them all the time. Like he really spends a lot of time with them, so that's very different.
Well, and then like, for instance, like we started doing Access Vegas. The charter for the show is like, we want to have beautiful women on. It's Vegas.
Yeah.
And we do. And we're getting to the point now where we have women hitting us up in our DMs to be on the show. So there's a different, like before we're spinning plates, but we have to go to them and say, hey, you want to be on our show? Now it's like they know about the show because their girlfriends talked about it and they want to be on the show now. So it's kind, in a way, it's like spinning plates, because most guys think that spinning plates requires this constant effort. If you're doing it right, the plates will spin themselves.
Yep. You are 100% right. So another good one. You've spoken to Jedediah, but every time I hear her name, I think of this
guy in the backwoods,
Christian,
like
Jedediah
okay.
Bila, Jedediah Bila, chapter 7,
It
verse
makes
5.
you think like she's like distilling moonshine in the back parking lot or some shit. Yeah. We've joked about that. We talked about that.
It doesn't sound, I've never heard a woman named Jedediah. It's very funny. It does not fit at all. But I've never met her before, but I swear I want to come in with a cowboy hat and boots and be like, Jedediah, what did I tell you about leaving the farm?
Coming out,
chewing some tobacco.
Storms are brewing. No, she would laugh at that too. She's funny. Yeah, she's really good. I like, of all of those creators and all of the sort of come up female creators, I think Jed is my favorite. She's a honorary sister wife. If she wasn't married, she'd be a sister wife.
She did not, she was a sister wife. She did not like Andrew Tate initially. And now she says so many things he says. And it's very interesting. I see that. I noticed that trend. It's very funny.
Did you see the episode that I did with her in July versus the episode I did with her in December?
I think I saw the older one. I didn't see the most recent one.
See the newer, look at the newer one, because I did the show with her towards the end of July of last year, and man, she was very confrontational. And I said, and she was really hostile towards, well, not really hostile, but she was like sort of downplaying like Fresh and Fit and Tate. And we got, in fact, one of the reasons why she wanted me on the show was because Andrew Tate had said something about how women shouldn't learn self-defense. They should just rely on men to protect them, because a 5'2" little lady, it doesn't matter if the guy's trained or not. If the guy is 6'2" and he's got the weight advantage, he's gonna like crush you every time. He was just being pragmatic.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that though. I think of course, a woman definitely benefits from knowing it. It doesn't mean she's going to be able to protect herself in every situation.
So I had to explain exactly what you're saying. I had to explain that to her on that show, because she just simply was unaware. She was ignorant of, in a good way, was ignorant of Tate and ignorant of what was going on with Fresh and Fit. And I said, look, if you're going to say, I don't know anything about Fresh and Fit, I don't know anything about Tate, but then go for another 45 minutes and say, here's everything you need to know about them. I was like, that's irresponsible. So I went on there and I said, like, here's what they're really saying. And I spelled it out for her. And then over the course of since July all the way to like mid-December, when I went on last, she's had a 180. Her whole brand is completely changed as a result of being exposed to the red pill. Tate, Justin Waller, Sterling Cooper, myself, Fresh and Fit. So now she's on board. She's a success story. I love Jed. You look at her old work and you look at where she's at. Dude, she was on The View. She used to be one of the hosts of The View, man.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
That's the effect. Come on, man. Can I have throw me a bone?
I love when women come around to this. It typically happens when they're older. That's just what I've realized. The one caveat I had was when we were talking in the beginning of the episode about how you can't really explain a lot of these things to women. There are some that you can. There really are. I've been able to do it.
You can explain the red pill to any woman you don't want to fuck.
You can mansplain your toxic masculinity.
You can explain. Hell, I don't want to have sex with Jed. She's married, right? I mean, she's Jed. She's cool, right? We're friends because we have a mutual interest, which is podcasting and our topics and everything else, right? I'm not calling up Jed saying, hey, Jed, let's go surfing this weekend. Right? I know you're married, but hey, tell Jeremy I'm taking you out, right? It's not going to happen. But the idea of telling women or trying to educate women about the red pill, women don't want to hear shit anyways. But when they are actually open to it, you can tell women about the red pill. You can explain things, and they can even come around like Jedediah did, right? And you're probably right. Mostly when they get older and they have a little bit more, they go, wait a minute, what's he really saying here? They become a little bit more better judge of character or they're more open to because there's no pretense of, does he want to fuck me? Does he not want to fuck me? Right. But the idea that you can't tell women about the red pill, you can tell them about the red pill all you want. You just won't fuck them as a result. You won't red pill her in the bed by explaining everything. That's why I say demonstrate, don't explicate. So you can, for instance, I work with Torsha, Tori Grow.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
And I love her to death. And people will say, oh, you just want to bang her because she's got big tits and a nice ass and she's got a stripper body and she's fantastic. And I'm like, no, I work with if that were the criteria,
she's got a little crush.
I got a lot more girls than just her I could work with.
Seems like she's got a little crush on you though, Rollo. I think everybody says that.
I think she's outgrown me. I think that crush is over.
She's outgrown you. That's very
Yeah,
humble.
she's outgrown me. I love Tori, but she's outgrown me, which is good. I wanted her. I hope she did outgrow me. But I don't mean like in the sub sense. I mean like just in the sense that, like she's got what she needs from me to sort of like go and develop her
Go
own
on her own
That's
way.
what she's gonna do.
She,
But
she's a wig. She's a wigtail now.
Wigtail. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
But she's very knowledgeable. She's of all the girls who are like new on the scene, I am most impressed with Tori because she takes initiative. So she will go and like look up my old work, my old stuff. She'll like do shows on like essays I wrote like in 2012. I'm like, I forgot about that essay, and she's doing a show on it. I'm like, oh fuck. So she takes the initiative. She's read all 5 of my books, which is more than I can say for even some of the people, my closest like guys that I know in this sphere. She's read all my books, they haven't, right? So she takes the initiative. She's interested. She's genuine. She's about it. That's why I guess maybe that's what I'm getting at. She's about it. So when somebody hits her, like you just asked me about praxeology, she'll be able to explain that to you just as well as I just did right now. Pretty close to it anyways. But if you ask her about like the alpha widow dynamic or the war brides dynamic or spinning plates or crisis of motive or identity, like that kind of stuff, you ask her like some of the nuts and bolts questions, she knows that she's bulletproof when she's on. Like if she was on here, she'd be bulletproof. She'd be able to tell you everything. People say, oh, she's just a clone of Rollo. Yeah, but also she's pretty good at like improvising and innovating for herself pretty well. That's why I work with Tori, because she knows the material pretty well. Did I explain it to her? Yes. Can you tell women about the red pill? Yes. I'm never going to fuck Tori. So why not? If it sinks in, it does. If it doesn't, okay, whatever. Nothing lost there. But I think she is a net benefit rather than a net disadvantage, which is more than I could say for a lot of other women that are in the sphere.
Speaking of that, what's your disdain or what's your issue with Pearl?
Pearl is a hack. That's why.
Why do you say that?
She's in it for the wrong. She's not about it. She's about the show. And she's very open about that too. She's an entertainer by her own words. I am an entertainer.
So you don't think she believes in any of it? Is that what you think?
No. Well, does she believe in it? I don't think she cares one way or the other. That's just it. Belief.
Right, but it does affect her life. Do you think she applies any of what you talk about or what any of all of this is all about? Do you think she believes the red pill ideas, or she just
okay,
she makes it seem that way?
First of all, it's not a belief. And then second of all, she is
right.
She is a fast follower. She is not an innovator. So she will lift material left and right. She has DM'd me several times asking me to teach her, like wanting to pay me to teach her how to red pill, right? What should I read? What should I do? And I'm just like, if you're asking, that's the wrong answer. You don't need to, if you're asking me to teach you about this, it tells me that you're not about it. You just want to be able to memorize what I've said or memorize these things and be able to parrot them back. I'm not going to get behind that. That's why I turned her down. And she's done that with other people as well. But
how do you know that she doesn't actually want to learn?
I'm sure she does. But the thing is like, she's not a good representative, a female representative for the red pill, because she does a show that everybody's very impressed with. She pays for it out of her father's money to get everything to where it's at right now. People want to know why she's at 1.5 million subs. How come you're not at 1.5 million subs? You must be jealous, Rollo. I'm like, subs are a vanity metric. Let's start with that. Second of all, it's like, I don't buy my subs and I don't buy comments and I don't buy likes. And so consequently, my show is only been at 204,000 right now. I don't
be organic.
Could be organic. They're all organic, and I can say the same for Fresh and Fit. They've never bought subs. I know that for a fact. So
how do you know she did?
Well, because she goes from 20,000 subs to 250,000 subs inside of a month, right? She goes from that to 500 to it's this astronaut. I mean, if you look, go to playboard.co, playboard.co, look up her channel and look at the subscribership from like say June of this year or last year, and right about like the end of June, beginning of July, it just goes straight.
You don't think that's possible?
It is possible if you're Andrew Tate. It is
Right.
possible if you're Kevin Samuels. It is possible if suddenly everyone is talking about you and they're subbing to your channel. But it's also very, very possible to buy those subs because YouTube doesn't care about buying subscriptions. They only care about impressions, click-through rate, and audience retention. That's the algorithm, not subs, not likes, not comments. Impressions, click-through rate, and audience retention comes after that. So those three criteria, that constitutes the algorithm for YouTube. If you look at any other, you can go buy comments, you can buy views, you can buy likes, you can buy subs all day long. And people will say, well, look, Abba and Preach, they've got almost 2 million subs. That doesn't impress me because what are they doing with that? What's their engagement rate? How many people do they have in a live stream? If you look at like whatever podcast, they've got 3.5 million subs. You go look at the live stream, there's 300 people in the live stream chat.
Right.
So you've got a million. You would think there'd be like 60,000. Look at Tim Pool. Tim Pool's got like 1.25 million subs. And he is doing like when he had Louder with Crowder on there, he was like at 125,000 live views.
Wow.
That is what I'm talking about. Now, if you go and you say, I'm a nobody, and suddenly I've got 1 million subs, but my live stream's I'm still only playing to like 800 people, you're probably fucking. So but that's not even the point. Yeah, that sounds like really stupid and petty and jealous and everything. And
Yeah,
like,
it does.
that's
make
what
you sound
everybody's
that
going
way.
to say is like, you're just
Yeah.
jealous. You're just coming up with, she's just better than you. Fuck yeah, Rollo. Because they want it to be, they want to believe that subs are the metric for a,
I mean, hey, I think they do help, right? If you have more subs, people assume that
people
you
are,
have a bigger.
well, you want to know why Valuetainment is looking at Brian at whatever podcast, and I think he's legit. It's because he's got 3.5 million subs.
Who are you talking about, Brian? Who? Callan?
From whatever podcast. This guy out of Santa Barbara, and I like him too. No, I'm not shitting on him. I'm just saying his 3.5 million came from when he was doing prank videos, and now he changed his template, his format to be like more like Fresh and Fit. And you go and you look there, and like a good show for him is like 800 or 900 live views. That's what they don't see. They're impressed with the subs, but they go and they look, what's the engagement? Nobody looks any beyond the subs because they think.
First of all, I hate it. I hate the studio. The studio is, I hate watching it. I don't know what
really
it is.
The whatever podcast.
I don't like how it looks. I don't know.
Whatever. Really. I think Brian is in a really good position.
No, I'm not saying the
UCSB.
podcast is a bad podcast. I'm strictly talking
so like
about
the layout. Yeah.
the layout. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's some things he could do. I think that
Looks like it's in a store. Like it's in like some store.
Might be. I think the format, the template that sort of Myron and Fresh have kind of like pioneered, everybody thinks that the template will make them successful.
Right.
So if you get a table and you get a bunch of girls around the table and you have these conversations, and then you're going to have a successful podcast. It's exactly what Pearl did. It's exactly what Purple Pill Podcast is doing. It's exactly what Brian at whatever podcast is doing. There's others. There's probably half a dozen other come-ups that are doing the same thing. But what they don't understand is that is the template is not what makes them successful. It's the knowledge and understanding of red pill, of the praxeology, being about it. That's the difference. You want to know why Fresh and Fit are successful and other people who try to follow that same format aren't? It's because Myron reads the books. He's on his fucking game every show. He knows the material. So when you put Pearl on the spot in an interview and you say, well, tell us about the I don't know, the alpha widow dynamic. She'll be able to like mouth whatever she's heard recently about it, but she doesn't understand she doesn't understand it in depth. Or she'll just like, I don't know, I just work here. I'm just an entertainer, and I'm okay. I like Pearl. I like her as a person. I think she's great. I just think that she has no business being in the manosphere. So and she can have a good show and she can facilitate and get great. You're doing the same thing, right? Get everybody together, have the conversation. Awesome. But when you're put on the spot, like if Tucker Carlson said, hey, Rafi, let's have you on. We're going to talk about the crisis of masculinity. You'd probably be able to do okay with that. But
honestly, Rollo, I think I would do very well. I may not be as well versed. I mean, I don't know. I've lived I'm only 28, but I've lived a lot in 28 years. And I very confident I could hold myself together in these sorts of conversations.
Well, I tell you one of the reasons why
I'm just younger, so people.
Well, for instance, Michaela Peterson was just dragged onto Fox and Friends this morning, as a matter of fact, to talk about why, of all things, why it is that men aren't participating in the labor force. Michaela Peterson, she's the foremost leading authority on men's involvement and participation in the labor market. And so what does she do? She pops off with whatever she thinks sounds right.
Do you have a dartboard? Do you have a dartboard of her on your wall?
No. I do not. People think I obsess over her so much, but then the problem is like, I don't. And then one of my followers goes, hey, did you see Michaela talking about this on this channel? I'm like, oh, God. You're gonna drag me back in. It's like, no, Rollo, you can't get away. I gotta drag you back to the Michaela thing again. But no, I'm using her as an example in this case. Is like, what the fuck does she know about any of this? Nothing. But you've got Fox and Friends calling her up because they think she knows something about it. Or you've got that girl, Leah Heilpern, in the BBC. She's the one, what was it? Piers Morgan calls her up. Hey, tell us about Andrew Tate. She's had one fucking interview with Andrew Tate, and they're just like over a year ago now. And she's just enraptured by Andrew Tate. That's her claim to fame.
Do you think she just has a crazy crush on Andrew Tate? Is that what this is?
She has a kidding. Yes, of course. He alpha widowed her. I did a podcast.
Oh, you think they did the deed?
I don't know one way or the other. I'm not going to speculate whether or not they did or they did. Probably, who knows, right? Like, those guys are going to watch us go, oh, they definitely smashed. Like, there's
there's a high probability, but I'm sure she would want to.
Well, the connection between Michaela Peterson and Tate as well.
Oh yeah, they probably smashed.
That I would be more willing to believe that they smashed than Leia Hopper. Put it that way.
Yeah. It's funny though, but I don't know this. The Leia girl, I've really never seen any of her stuff. I've watched.
You know what people aren't calling Leia for? To talk about Bitcoin, to talk about what she was all about prior to meeting Tate. 100%. They don't call her to say, well, we're in the worst down market in crypto ever. They ain't calling you. They're calling Richard Hart. They're not calling you.
I mean,
Tate. Hey, we got this bitch that one time she had an interview with him and she's really about it. Let's get her on. That's what I'm talking about. It's like when you have people who put themselves out there as being authorities for the manosphere. And let's see, Pearl is very, she's very approachable. She doesn't seem like the jet screaming big titty hootie queens that we have on Access Vegas. They won't get the call to go on Tucker Carlson. She will, but she won't know what to say when she gets on there. She'll go on with, I don't know if you saw did you see the Vice feminists talk? Like they had Sydney Watson was on there.
Yep, I watched
it. And she was on there and it's just nothing but like mouth breathing like feminists. And of course, one's male.
Dude, right? Those women are out of their fucking minds.
So if you go and you look at the difference between the responses of, say, Sydney Watson, who I know, I've been on her, I was on You Are Here podcast with her and Elijah Schaefer. She's on her game. She's more red pill. She's more prepared than Pearl was on that show. So and who has the bigger audience, Sydney Watson or Pearl?
I don't even know who Sydney Watson is, to be honest.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. Yeah. You know who Pearl is, and Pearl's like kind of gets caught flat-footed, or here's the thing is, when Pearl gets into a situation like that, when she's on that show, that was this really good example, like the Vice feminist thing. When she gets into a situation like that, she knows what the response is. So she gets a question, what do you think women are doing wrong these days, right? Or what do you like the nature of women? She'll pop off with some sort of soundbite or some sort of quote she remembers hearing from me or Myron or from the manosphere in general, or Kevin Samuels, whatever. She'll pop off with that. Every woman on that panel will go, and they'll have the response that you would expect. And then they would press her on like, well, what do you mean by that? Why do you think that? What is, elaborate, please. And she can't elaborate because she's only parroted back what she's heard from somebody else. And she's unprepared to have that conversation, but she puts herself into situations where she will pop off with that and looks worse off for not knowing how to back it up. The reason I have a problem with that is if you're going to present yourself as an authority on the red pill, then you need to come correct. You need to have the background and the understanding and be able to defend those positions. She can't defend those positions because she's only heard them from people on her entertainment show. So she gets caught flat-footed. And then the problem is people go, oh, that girl, that dumb bitch on Vice, she didn't know what she was talking about. That's the red pill. That's what it's all about. And then, so therefore people just dismiss the red pill. The same thing's happening with like that kid who was on Dr. Phil, who came on before me, the kind of the egghead guy who was like clearly autistic. I don't know if you watched the whole thing.
Yeah. I know
Okay.
exactly what you're talking about.
They were doing the same thing. They wanted to prop him up as an authority on the red pill, as an authority.
You know what's interesting? You know what's interesting? He did give off a little bit of an autistic
I asked him
vibe.
afterwards. I talked to him after the show and I asked him, I said, have you ever been, in fact, I asked him on the show, they just cut it out. But after the show, I talked to him and said, have you ever been diagnosed with Asperger's? He says, yes. So, but to his credit, he's managed it very well as a result of the red pill. That will never make the cut.
What he said still made very much sense. And I have all the respect for him.
He was out there and he's doing it. He took it on the chin, but like, he doesn't know he's taking it on the chin, but he took it on the chin, right? That's why when I went up there, I was all fucking business with Dr. Phil, because when I went up there, he was expecting me to be like this, 80 IQ dumbass prole that he always, the baby's your baby. Like that's what he was waiting for, to come out of me. And I'm like a fucking surgeon when I go in there.
Yeah.
And I dissect, I got everything. I'm on point. Why do you think that? Sure. Let me tell you, I've been on the show explaining my points in great detail. Oh, you're long-winded. Yeah, I am, because it's necessary to be long-winded. It's necessary to take the college course of the red pill. There ain't no footnotes. There ain't no, the quotable rational male. That doesn't exist. Because if it did, people would have discussions and say, oh, he's just an alt-right tradcon. He's a Christian. He's a Jew. He's a this, because that's what they believe. And we're going to attach that red pill praxeology to whatever their ideology is, or what their impression of that ideology is. And therefore they can dismiss you easily and go on to the next soundbite. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Damn right. You by the way, speaking of Christian and Jew, I think this was with Michael. You were saying since Andrew converted to Islam, you might have to convert to Judaism.
That's all that's left, man. That's all that's left for me. Like Roosh B converted to Orthodox Christianity. I'm like, okay, that's taken. And then Tate officially converts to Islam. Okay, that's taken. The only thing that's left for me when I finally fuck up and I have to pivot is I got to join the tribe.
Just come to me and to me and Adam.
I know enough about Yiddish that I could probably pass as a Jew. I'm not an Italian, but I could be a Jew. I'll tell you, I'm working. I joke about this. Working in the wine and spirits industry.
Yeah.
There, you have two options. You like for distribution, you work with the mob or you work with the Jews.
That's really how it is. That's really how it is.
Yes. I've been to brisses before. One of my best friends in the business is Jewish. Practicing.
I love
goes
that.
to synagogue, goes to temple Jew. Yeah.
I
know. Awesome. I probably, other than Christianity, I probably know the Jewish religion probably better than any other religion. So.
That's funny. It would be a pleasure having you.
Yeah, I'll be part of the. Andrew. Oh no, Aaron Clary is ethnically he's Jewish, so he's like, hey, we'll have you in the tribe.
They did that.
They gotta call him Oil.
No. They just did a PBD just did a podcast, and Adam was on the panel. Who else was on it? I forget. It was Tom Ellsworth, one of their finance guys, and then they had Vince Oshana. And they mentioned, they were just talking about Adam. It was his birthday, so they made fun of his mom having that classic New York Jewish accent,
Brooklyn, yeah.
They're like, oh, Adam, you never call.
Call your mother. Yes.
You gotta call your mother. You never
mother.
talk to me. I always give you an allowance every week, yes. And you have the gall of you not to call me out.
Have you found a nice Jewish girl out there yet? It's right? It's only Miami. It's the 5th or the 6th burg of New York.
Remember, your family's been Jewish for 3,000 years. You can't go marrying a shiksa. I told you this.
I'll tell you what's really funny is every once in a while, this will come out of me in a show. I call things Bubba Miza. You know what a Bubba Miza is?
Yeah, of course I do.
A Bubba Miza. Okay. A lot of people don't know what a Bubba Miza is, right? So I have to explain it on my show.
I love that Rollo Tomassi just said the word Bubba Miza. I'm so happy about this.
Because my good friend, I don't want to name his name, but in the wine spirits, his wife she's got that kind of accent. She's a really sexy girl, but she has that kind of like Yentl kind of thing going on. And she's just she's a kick in the pants, but like she'll say stuff like Bubba Mize, and like I didn't realize I picked up on that until I started using it in my show.
Are they Hasidic?
I'm like, where did I? It's Yiddish, is what it is, right? And
no, yeah, I don't speak Yiddish. I know Yiddish words because I was a waiter in parts of New York that are very Hasidic. Those are really the only people.
Do you use the word schmutz?
Yeah,
you got some schmutz on you.
Yeah, some schmutz.
I have used that in shows. I'm like, where did that go?
No, I know a bunch of random words, but I speak Hebrew. Yiddish, I don't really speak. Hebrew is very different. You know the difference, I'm assuming. Yeah. So yeah,
but
it's
I think it's interesting. I really like. I was asked this recently about. I know it was. People were saying, "Well, what do you think of the black manosphere?" I'm like, I don't think it should exist. What do you think of the white manosphere? I don't think it should exist. What about Christian red pill guys? No, we're just red pill guy. We're men, right? So it's like, I don't care if my good friend Craig from Abu American, he helped me write the fourth book, which was about religion, right? It's the red pill and religion. It's the confluence of red pill and religion. So many people kept asking me about that. They were like, Rollo, I believe everything you say. I completely your message. It's changed my life, but I'm a practicing born again Christian and I don't believe in premarital sex. Or I am a Muslim and I want to have 4 wives, but I can't have sex until I get a wife, right? Or the Jewish side, I can't have sex with my wife if she's on the period, if she's having a period, right? She's in her blood month or something like that. Those kind of questions and everything started like formulating the basis of book 4. And I knew that if I wasn't bulletproof about the religious side of things, people would just like tear me to ribbons. So I consulted Rabbi Kaba, who's actually the only red pill rabbi that I know, as a matter of fact.
The red pill rabbi. That would actually
his name is Rabbi Kaba. That's what he goes by, Rabbi Kaba. But he was my Ask a Jew part, and then Craig from Abu American, he was my Ask a Muslim. And then I had Catholics. I actually had when Pat Campbell was alive, God rest his soul, he was the Catholic guy that I would hit up. And then Mormon guys, and there's plenty. So when people found out I was writing a book about religion, they're like, well, are you going to write about Amish people? Are you going to write about the Orthodox Christian Church of 1863 that separated from the church in 71? And then the real Pope is this guy you've never, Saint Pacifico that you've never heard of before. Oh, Jesus Christ. So I'm trying to cover all my bases. It effectively became impossible, but I covered Sikhs, I covered Mormons, I covered the Amish, I covered Catholicism, evangelical Protestant, Baptist, I covered the Jews, which was a piece of cake, and Islam, no problem. I think I did Islam pretty good because I also covered the myth that you have 72 virgins waiting for you in paradise if you blow yourself up. That is not in the Quran, and
that is insane.
I have a copy of the Quran.
Why would anyone want that many virgins, though?
I have a copy of the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, well, so exactly.
How is that a gift? 72.
I only know how to marry them. I don't know how to live with them.
72 women calling me up. Oh my God, I love you. I'm so happy to have that special.
Our baby number what? 108. Jesus Christ.
Why would I want to die?
It's funny. It's like I think people think like when we talk about this gets into the polyamory and the polygyny and stuff topics. When people ask me about that or say, what do you think about like Muslims and having back in the Old Testament you could have Father Abraham had 2 wives and God knows how many maidservants, whatever. So I have to cover my ass on that. But I think what's funny is when I talk to Muslims who can't get 1 wife, much less 4. I didn't realize there's a top end. You can only have a maximum of 4 wives in Islam. They don't necessarily say they're going to encourage it, but they're only saying have those if you can afford it, which then of course comes back to the transactional nature of marriage. So there's a lot. So you could just go in so many different directions with that. But again, I don't think there needs to be a Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Hindu, whatever red pill, or a black manosphere, or a white manosphere, or a Latino manosphere, or an Asian manosphere, or an Indian manosphere, whatever. Are we dudes or are we not dudes? We all share conventional masculinity to some degree.
Right.
If you got a guy, what was it? I think I was watching, there was this documentary one time. I was trying to make the the case that the Vikings back in like the way back in prehistory found from Greenland, they found like the United States, the northeastern part of the United States, and that there's evidence that they met like Indian tribes, like Native American Indian tribes there. And there was this just mutual understanding between the male patriarchs, the male tribal, like the guys who were like I'm the leader in this, right? And the leader of like I want to say it was the Iroquois. I'm not sure which tribe it was, but they're just like, that's all it takes. Like there's this masculine understanding between two completely disparate like tribes, but you're still a man, you're still human. You see your chicks, you see my chicks, you see my tribe, you see my family. There's this like innate natural understanding between a guy who gets it and a guy who doesn't get it. But when two guys who get it come together, it's just like, that's all. It's just a nod, right? They understand that.
So they just respect each other.
There's a masculine mutual self-respect, because it's like, I see you, I see the signs, I see the cues, I understand what you're about. Our ways might differ a little bit, but our socialization, our acculturation might differ, but we're still men. And I talk about this with Mike Sartain all the time. Is like, there's guys like who just click with. Like when I first started hanging out with Mike, we started like punching each other and fucking with each other. Same thing with Justin Waller, man. It's like, I get it, he gets me. We're like, we're on the same wavelength. There's no like testing. There's no like nipple twists or any shit like that. There's no like,
no nipple twist. That's come on, man.
No hazing. It's like I can jump on his back and he can jump on my back and we can fuck around like we've known each other all our lives and we're like brothers from a long time ago, because there's that mutual understanding. Most guys today don't get that, because they've been socialized behind a screen, and they think that that's bullying, or they think that's hazing, or they think, oh, can't you be more nice? You will never see this in the Dr. Phil show, but there's this one exchange between myself and Imran Ahmed when I was on there. And once he decided that he wanted to be the guy who was the one who took down Andrew Tate, I'm so glad he said that too, because
right, you put him,
hates his guts. But like I challenged him on a lot of different points. I said, you are absolutely not the guy that took down Andrew Tate. I explained to him in detail that it'll never show up in the show because it's too long-winded. But he at one point in the show, he goes, it's all about power to you, Rollo. I'm like, yeah, it is. I said, it absolutely is. I said, all human relations are about power to some degree. Go read the 48 Laws of Power. It's not a guidebook. It will explain to you how that works. I'm not saying be an evil fucking tyrant, right, mastermind. I'm just saying that there are power dynamics. Whether you decide it's like what we talk about MGTOW, right? I want to exit the game. You don't get to exit the game any more than you can exit the power dynamics, because that's part of human nature. Accept it and use it, or you can just go live in a shack somewhere.
Right.
And so when he comes at me and says, oh, it's about you're all about power. You're goddamn right. I'm all about power. And so are you. And so is Dr. Phil. The fact that you're even on this show means you're interested in power. So go fuck off with that, shaming tactic about power. Everybody's into power. You're just by order of degree.
Some people know how to get it, and some people don't. And some
exactly.
people use it for the.
So what was I just saying about like masculine respect? There's that innate natural understanding. That's a guy who doesn't get it. And so I'm like, okay, this guy's a little like, I know who I'm dealing with. I know that type, and I know who I'm dealing. He's not a tribal leader, put it that way. He's not the leader of his household, much less the leader of any other. No men are following him, put it that way. No women folk are following him. It's just that attitude and that look and that delivery. And then just, you could hear it in his ideology, right? It's all power to you. Like he's offended by that. That tells me what I need to know about it.
It's just so interesting. What I just find so fascinating about female nature, and this is a generalization, is they'll get so upset. They'll get so upset at the very men that they're so attracted to. They'll say the things that trigger them, but those are the men that they always go after. Like I'll sometimes be in a group, a circle of men and women, and funny enough, I actually.
Are you as hot as I am? Yes. Do you want to fuck? Yes. Let's go. Yeah.
No, I even when I'm very straightforward and direct, I'm able to articulate. I'll give you a great example. Actually, I went to a Shabbat dinner last night. The rabbi is around my age. I love the guy. He's a blast. So him and his wife have these beautiful outdoor dinners, and there are guys and girls. It's a good time. Mm-hmm. So I was sitting next to these two sisters, and one of them was pretty cute. but she had a very serious face. She wasn't really talking so much. And I knew it was because she was shy, not because she was a mean girl. And I forgot how it came up, but I was like, you know, and yada yada has resting bitch face. And I said it jokingly, but she's like,
I can't believe you said that.
yeah. And then my buddy's sister like gave me this look. I just met her also that night, but she gave me, I'm like, you have to understand, me saying you have resting, I look her like dead in the eyes. I'm like, me saying you have resting bitch face is not me calling you a bitch. It simply means that you have a very serious face where you don't really give a shit about what anyone thinks. You do you. People tell me I have that too. They don't say I have resting bitch face. The people just tell me.
I don't think I have resting bitch face.
No.
Do guys have resting bitch face? I guess
They just tell me I look serious all the time. I don't get it often, but I do get it sometimes.
Yeah, I'll tell you, here's a better one. Next time that happens, next time you're trying to be like engaging, say this, look at her and go, you should smile more. You want to set off a chick? Go,
I don't know what I said, but it went great, dude. It went great though. Because what happened was, and this is just something you learn as a guy through enough experience, is when saying something that bold, they're going to challenge you. They're going to act. They might even be a little upset.
Yes.
But if you look them in the eye and you hold your frame and you stick with your guns and I didn't back down from it, but I explained how I really thought about it. And they said, and they went with it. They totally went. She's like, she agreed with me. She started off acting like she was upset, but then when she realized that I was saying it with authority and I wasn't going to apologize for it on a very simple level, she said, oh shit, okay. Well,
yeah, because I think too many women are used to guys placating and pandering to them.
That's they get scared.
They walk on eggshells. Like I think guys, well, certainly like the 80%ers, like most beta male guys, and I would say even probably part of the 20%, depending on how they were raised, but like they walk on eggshells. That's their default setting, is to walk on eggshells. I don't want to offend, because if I offend, I won't get laid. And so they become very accommodating. They become very appeasing. They become very like, people pleasers kind of thing with women. Right. And that's, I refer to this as women's like hypergamous filter, right? They'll say it's their feminine intuition. And to a degree, they're right, because it's like that sensitivity to, is this guy really full of shit? Or is he for real? Is he legit? And that's why what you just went through right there was like that when she was, no man has ever said that to me before. Like, yeah, no man has ever said that to you before.
I literally,
there's so many ways to go with that.
She's right here. She gives me this face. I look at her and I'm like, and
yeah, exactly. Well, so I like what you said about like, stick to your guns. Most guys will crack, like they'll break character. No, I'm just fucking kidding. I'm fucking with you.
I'm joking. Yeah.
Then when you do that, guess what you just did? You start talking to her like a woman. Her psyche says, oh, this is a woman. I'm going to deal. You might be friends. You might like you, but she's going to deal with it.
It gets all dry.
As I said, boyfriends and girlfriends. If you're not fucking her, you're her girlfriend. If she doesn't look like, if you're not the guy that could fuck her, you're her girlfriend. 100%. And so but you did the right thing. I think a lot of guys think that they're too scared to experiment with being bold like that.
Oh, this is such a multifaceted thing, Rollo. I think it also tells a woman subconsciously that you are able to protect her, and that you're able to go out and hunt and acquire the things you need to. Because if you can stand up to her and you're not afraid of her rejecting you or saying no to you, therefore you can go out and defend against other people.
Because if you can be that way with her, that must say something about your character. So that's number one. Number two is it's also served, by the way, cocky, funny, all peacocking, all that other stuff that like it's pickup artist stuff. Yeah, but the principle of it is universal. So if you're wearing like a top hat and black nail polish and a big feather boa and shit, you look like Mystery circa, 2005.
Yeah.
You're gonna look like, you better be able to walk. You better stay in character the whole time you're in that fucking costume. You better, because the minute you drop it, people are gonna go, oh my God, who the fuck is this? Right. Then suddenly you're a tryhard. But if you stay in character and that's you can be Gene Simmons in full fucking Kiss battle uniform, go out there. As long as you stay who you are and you're about it and you're congruent with what you're presenting and you're believable, then you're not a tryhard. You're not a wannabe at that. You're not LARPing, right? But the key is that woman is trying to figure out if you're for real, if you're are you congruent with what you just said? How dare the kind of guy who would say that to me is like this. Now prove to me you're that guy, right? The guy who's bold enough to risk
Ex-
offending me is a certain kind of guy. Let's see if you're full of shit, right? Then that's how you start conversations, by the way. Don't risk to offend. This is like PUA 101. You can be offensive and negative with a woman, or you can be very positive and be funny and exciting with a woman. Doesn't matter. You have to leave her with an emotional impression. The worst thing you can do is be a freaking, a milk toast piece of paper. You're made of paper mache. If you don't leave her with an emotional impression to remember you by, you're done. So negative, positive makes no difference. Leave her with an emotional association, which is of course what you did. But the other thing is this: when guys experiment with offending that, and I'm not saying guys go out there and just say, "Hey, bitch, fuck you, come and suck my dick." Like, that's not what I'm saying. Okay, the way that you did it, right, was you have resting bitch face, or you should smile more, right? Like maybe that would have been, a good way to. Oh, how dare you? Like it's gonna set her off.
It
It's not
wouldn't
like
have been as
saying,
exciting though.
no, yeah,
Would not have
because
been as exciting.
exactly, because the connotation is different with bitch, right?
Yeah.
But you have presented yourself just by saying that one sentence as a guy who would say that one sentence. And so you must have something going on for you, right? It's the concept, God, I hate to get technical in this. It's a concept of the peacock's tail, right? The peacock's tail serves no biological evolutionary function. If anything, it's a deficit because it makes him slower and he can't drag it around. He get killed by predators, but he has the badass tail, the bitchinest ass, plumes of any peacock, and peahens want to fuck him. So, but the reason why is because I've got this huge plumage and I'm still a badass. We're going to have some badass pea chicks. Let's go, right? And so even though there's predators that want to kill me, I still got this. And it's what's called a costly signal. It signifies cost, right? It's a cost. And I'm blocking on the actual term for it, but it's a costly signal. So when you say you've got resting bitch face, that right there is a costly signal because you're risking offending her and not getting laid when maybe your intent is to get laid, right? It's like showing up to a party late, fashionably late. You're so badass and you're so high value, you can show up late. Other people have to show up on time. You're fucking lazy ass because you're so high value. You don't care if you show up on time, early, whatever, you show up late. Those are the guys, it's a costly signifier. It means I have the value enough to show up late. Guys who like dress down instead of dressing up for like a formal event, they're saying, fuck you, I have enough value that I can dress down while you motherfuckers have to dress up. Or vice versa. If everything's really super casual and they're all in jeans and t-shirt and shit, and you show up like Justin Waller, the fucking full, 3-piece suit and everything, you're like, that shows it's like it's a costly signal, meaning like I have so much value, I can pull this shit off. Whether you can or you can't doesn't make any difference. It's just the perception is that because I'm doing this, therefore I have high value. So by saying you have resting bitch face, you've now said, I am so fucking high value that I will tell you to your face that you have resting bitch face, even though I kind of want to fuck you. But I don't care whether you are offended by that or not, because if you get offended and I blow this, you completely blow me out. I've got 4 other chicks on speed dial. I got other chicks that want to fuck me anyways. But you know what? I'm gonna test the waters. I'm gonna experiment with being bold. Enter into action with boldness. That's a one from the law of power. And any offense can be covered up with more boldness.
Yep. It's so funny how it's just, but it's just great because I don't even do these things with the intention of being more attractive to that person, but innately I know that it works that way.
Because you are the game. Would you say you're a natural?
Yeah, let me tell you, when I was a young teenager, I would say 15, 16, 17, I was still pretty good at talking to women, but not better maybe than the average guy. But I sucked. Like I got rejected all the time. I was very skinny. I had no facial hair. But I was a friendly guy. I was popular at school, so I was decent. But once I would say I hit 20, 21, 22, that's where I really started to get into it. And I just, wow. Like I got very good at it.
Mhm.
And
I
now at this point, I'm definitely
see.
it's
So people ask me this, and it's kind of relates to what you did. Is I think a lot of guys who lack social skills, or they lack an understanding of intersexual dynamics, or the nature, women's nature, men's nature, and how they kind of come together, that when they haven't been socialized or acculturated to understand that, or how to be able to interact, they kind of get, they're not necessarily autistic, or there's something functionally wrong with them. It's just they haven't had the learning process to get to the point where, like, say you are, or I am, or guys who are naturals. And I see this in the looks community all the time. The guys who are looks maxers, like face and LMS, looks, money, status. The guys who think that looks are everything, they almost always refer to guys who are like sort of genetic, what I call genetic celebrities, right? They're the guys who are like Brad Pitt, right? They're the guys that are like the Giga Chad is like the peak of looks maxing. And there's so much more to getting with a chick than just looks. I'm not saying it's not important. Sometimes I'm not even saying it's not the most important thing. It is, but there's other aspects that are also part of that too. So when guys ask me like, oh, Rollo, I wouldn't want to be Rollo. He has to game his wife all the time. He has to be, I wouldn't want to try to keep that up. Well, can I ever let my hair down? Can I ever relax? Can I ever do? And my answer is like, no, you can't, but it's not as hard as you think, because you have to internalize game. You have to be the guy. I always say this, I'm the game, right?
right.
And people think I'm being obnoxious and conceited and arrogant. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just saying I've internalized it. So it's my second nature. Your second
Also,
nature
women
is
know. Women know if it's real or not. Women sense right away.
Yeah. Yeah. So is it an act? Is it not an act? Well, it's only an act up until the point where it's not rote memorization, scripted, and you don't feel like you're putting on a performance. I had to learn this, through years and years and years, and not because I was actively trying to learn it. It's because came up in the Hollywood metal scene of the late 80s and 90s, right? I learned how to get laid in that environment. I knew I could do it fair with a fair degree of regularity. Let's just say that. And so I learned what would work for me. Now, when guys say, oh, I just asked you a minute ago, like, do you think you're a natural? Well, I think there are guys who we would call naturals, but they're usually just guys who are genetic celebrities who hit the looks lottery, and they have been rewarded with female sex and female attention, and in a way that other guys have to work to get. And so they're still employing game. They're still doing the same things you are. They're just ahead of you in the game because they had the advantage of looks to push them up ahead of you. So it's not that there's no such thing as a natural per se. The natural still has to learn social skills, but he has an easier time of it. And I think a lot of guys think that they want to go MGTOW and oh, fuck it, I don't care, I'm going to be black pill, because they're not naturals. And it's like, no, that's not the point. He learned the same skills that I will teach you in my 5th book, in the Player's Handbook, right? The advantage is that he's got a head start on you. He just has he got his dick sucked when he was 14 years old as a freshman in high school because he's a good looking dude, right? So he's rewarded. What he did worked for him faster, earlier, quicker than it would for you, because you're at a functional disadvantage. Can you overcome that? Absolutely. Lots of people have. But the guy who looks like Giga Chad, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
It's interesting, Rollo. What's interesting is I consider myself a good-looking guy. I definitely do. But there are men that are aesthetically, I would say, according to most women, better looking than I am. There are plenty of them. But I know for a fact
Justin Miller, for example.
Definitely, he's taller than me. Most women would probably think he's better looking than I am, and I'm perfectly okay with that. But there are a lot of exceptionally good-looking men that have not had to go through nearly as much rejection, or they aren't as well studied in something. Maybe they haven't been through school, or they haven't had to work very hard, or haven't chosen to work as hard. And they might be great fucking prospects for short term, but if they're trying to get with a woman who is well-spoken, well-educated, they're going to have a hard time hanging out with her. So I think if they're trying for a longer friends with benefits or even dating, that's where they fall short. So that's really how I look at the red pill as being the total package. Just because you were gifted with exceptionally good looks doesn't mean that you can try to shy away from being an incredible speaker and someone who can really hold a
Well,
conversation with you,
there's
right?
you have to be the complete package, because you got to remember, and women will say, I'm using girl talk here, but they want the complete package. They don't. It's like, it's one thing to have a really Jason Momoa. I want to fuck Jason Momoa. I want to fuck Giga Chad, whatever. Yeah, that's the arousal side of hypergamy, but you also have to take into account the beta bucks provisioning long-term security side of hypergamy.
Let me
So
just get a tissue. I'll be right back.
okay, you got protection, you got provisioning, and you got parental investment. So when you have a guy who excels in one of those areas, like if you like money, muscles, and game, right? If you have a guy who excels in one of those areas, it's usually at the cost of other areas. So you got a guy, I don't have a lot of money, I'm kind of dirt poor, but I'm hella good looking. I'm Jeremy Meeks, right? I'm incarcerated in prison, but women still want to fuck me, right? That you'll probably gross out
That
on
guy,
looks
I remember
because
that guy.
you're playing to your strengths, right? Okay, well, I don't have a lot of, I'm kind of, I don't have those good looks, but I can certainly make a shit ton of money. And really, that's all women care about anyways, is rich guys, right? So what do? You're going to focus on nothing but your money at the expense of game and looks. So now it's all about lead with your wallet and make a shit ton of money, because women are basically prostitutes, and that's that. Then you got the guys who are just like, it's all about game. It's only game. All you got to do is be funny, charming, humorous, blah, 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 leave them with an emotional connection. The guys in RSD, guys in Venusian arts, the early pickup artists believed that all it was about was game. And I understand how frustrating that is for black pill doomers, because they think it's like pie in the sky bullshit salesman, snake oil salesmanship. And in some cases, they might be right about that. But what they're wrong about is that it's not just about game. It's also about money, and it's also about your looks. That's the trifecta right there. And so when guys are strong in one of those areas, they tend to gross out in that area at the expense of others. So you can have a guy who looks like Justin Waller, but if he's dirt poor, or he's kind of socially awkward, he will never do as well as the real literal Justin Waller, right? The guy who's got a lot of money, he's got his shit together, he's good with girls, whatever. He got to that point because of having genetic advantages, of course, but he's where he is right now because he decided that at some point he wanted to amplify himself up to the point where he was like an elite player in the game, which he is. Now, I'll give you a quick story, and he won't mind me telling this because I've told it a million times. I was at where was we? Oh, we were at the Collective. We were at the it was Rebel Capitalist, George Gammon's event, is a convention in Dallas, or no, it's Houston. And we're there, and we're in a Mexican restaurant. It's myself, it's Tom, and Justin. We're there just having I don't know, tacos or some shit. And Justin's being Justin. It's nighttime and everything, and this girl walks by, puts the folded piece of paper down in front of Justin, and keeps walking on. And she was a fucking knockout too. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? I thought she was a waitress at first. She's not a waitress. She was like one of these chicks that's sort of roaming around the events and everything. And it says, I don't know, Cassie or whatever the fuck her name was, and a phone number on there. I'm like, did I just fucking see that? I was like, I wish I had Instagram going at that time. I wish I had that on video, right? I have the picture to this day. I blocked out the out of focus the number, but he was showing it. I still have it today. It's funny. I put it up on Instagram. It's the funniest fucking story in the world. I put it up, and so what do you think people say? Oh, it's because he's because he's 6'3" and he's good looking. He's a ginger, right? He's 6'3", he's good looking. That's why he can do that, blah, blah. And like, you could do that too, but you probably couldn't get her to give you that number. But if you had the skills to do that, if you had at least somewhat good looks, it will take you longer to game that same girl. You could still go do that, but not as easily as Justin Waller. Well, all he has to do is show up, eat tacos,
Dude,
and the girl will give him the phone number,
Rollo,
right? Or
Rollo,
give him the contacts.
I'm sure that Justin gets these things, that these things happen to him more than they
Well,
happen
I
to
can
me.
tell you other stories that I'm not allowed to, but yeah.
When I was in Vegas my first time, and you know what? I'm going to tell you the story off of the podcast after.
All
I'll tell it to
right.
you after. It's a great story, but I'm going to tell it to you afterwards.
Mhm.
I think we actually covered a hell of a lot of ground. We've been talking for over 2 hours.
Yeah,
For
I
sure.
know. I have to go buy a bitchin' Camaro. In fact, I'm looking at a
Yeah.
convertible right now
So
too.
let me wrap this up, and then I want to tell you the story.
Okay.
Okay. Rollo, thank you for coming onto the show. Really had an
Sure.
amazing talk with you. It was really awesome. I hope you enjoyed as well.
Anytime. I would like to do this live at some point. I think it'd be better. I mean, I don't mind going on show at this point. Like, I think people are thinking like, oh, well, Rollo won't go debate Pearl. He won't go debate Destiny. He won't go debate. Like, first of all, it's not debate, first of all, but I will have a conversation with those people. And I would much rather do it on your show. I would much rather do it in sort of neutral territory, because I'm at the point right now. I'm at, like, for 2023, I'm at the stage right now. It's like, if anybody wants to do a conversation or a debate or whatever the fuck it is, I'll do it. But I would rather do it on a show like yours. I'd rather do it where there's like sort of like a moderator between the two of us, so nobody's shouting each other or filibustering or any of that other crap.
Right.
But I'm at the point right now, it's especially after the Dr. Phil show, that if I don't know my shit, if I don't come correct, I got no business being on that show to begin with. So if I can school Dr. Phil, I can sure shit school a lot of other people too. So, and not because that's the point, but just like, I want to be able to go out and do these things, but it has to be on shows like yours.
Sounds good. Well, it would be an honor to be that guy.
Sure.
I'm trying to do the same thing with the Israeli-Palestinian conflicts, because it's very discussed now. There's been a lot going on there. I don't know if you've seen it in the news. I'm assuming you haven't, but there was a military raid on a Palestinian refugee camp, killed 10 people. So then the Palestinian gunman killed 7 Israelis by a synagogue. So now things are blowing up. It's becoming a whole thing. So it's always
there's a Latin term for that. It's called lex talia, or taliation. Lex talien, yeah, whatever. It's tooth for tooth, eye for an eye.
Eye for an eye, yeah. So it's constant. I mean, it's been this way since 48, even before. But I want to get on podcasts like Lex Friedman and Joe Rogan, because I know that they talk about it, and Lex
would have you on for sure.
I don't know how to reach out to him.
Part of the tribe. Yeah,
I've DM'd him. I know that if I can meet the guy, or if he finally answers my DM, I think he'll definitely give me a shot.
Is he talking about it? Like, is he like talking about?
He just had a Palestinian American. He's some public figure. He's based in Louisiana, and they had a very cordial, nice conversation. Alex was very respectful. He even went to a mosque with this guy to pray with him, just to show solidarity of sorts. And I would love to talk to this guy.
I like Alex Friedman a lot. Especially, I had a new respect for him after the interview of Destiny. And he was like ready to he was just ready. I've never wanted to kill a man as much as I do right now. I was like, oh my God, did he just say that?
I saw that one. I saw it. It was so good.
Like, holy shit. Like, this guy's, what is he, from Yonkers? Where is this guy? I was like, holy shit.
It was such a good episode. I really like. It's funny. Lex is so monotone, though. That's my only quarrel. Is like, I wish
I would love to go on Lex. I would with prejudice. I would love to go on with Lex before I would go on, like, say, with Joe Rogan or anybody else. I think he would probably be. I think he would be more on my wavelength. Also, Steven Crowder, dude. I got a new respect for Steven Crowder now. Bless you. My goodness. You need some Benadryl, dude.
No, I'll tell you. I might go get some Benadryl. It's crazy. I'm telling you, man, it's these European Jewish genes, allergies and Tay-Sachs and these shit things.
What am I doing in Miami?
The allergies. No, I'm part Italian. I'm half Italian. I'm half Italian for my dad.
So, well, next time I'm out there, I'll take you fishing. We'll go out deep sea fishing.
I would love that, man.
I do 2 trips a year, so
that would be fantastic. Okay, so let's wrap this up, Rollo. I really love talking to you. It's been a pleasure. Guys, make sure to subscribe, like, and share. Follow Rollo Tomassi on YouTube, on Instagram. At The Rational Male, I'm going to drop your links in the description. Definitely check out his 5 books. You will be very, very glad you did, especially if you're a guy. But I even implore women to read the books as well. So again, thank you so much. Make sure to stay on when I stop record. Just stay on for a minute. Yeah. All right, guys. That is all. Okay.